Let's get to it, huh? So yeah, technical difficulties the last couple days. I have not been on. Um, yeah, it looks like everything's working tonight. If anybody was watching, I had everything going fine the Monday night, and then the stream just dropped because my internet dropped. So that was fantastic. And then, and then, no, and then last night, the software I used was having compatibility problems, so I couldn't stream. And so I got everything reset. Looks like I'm all good. We will get this going. I have some good stuff from last night still. I got new stuff for today. Hell, I think just with everything I got going on, I'm missing like three things I wanted to go over, and maybe I will just stay on forever tonight. We will see what kind of energy I got. I'm drinking something without caffeine, so we'll see how long it goes. Right now, I'm going with some sativa. I'm moving on to some indica right next, so we will see how long this goes tonight. But I did want to start out right away with a clip. As you can see here, we got Nico House on the right. I've shown him once in a while, and then JB Font on the left. He is from Revolutionary Blackout Network. I don't know if he's been in clips before with many other people, but this is his channel, his network, and him and Nico are talking a few serious things, a few non-serious. So I thought that'd be a good way to start our day while we let a few other people get on and join. We will start out with Nico and actually, before we do that, we should check out and make sure. Let's go live. This is the EarthCam live from Kiev, Ukraine. It's like 7:30, 8:30 in the morning there. Looks like standard traffic to school to work traffic there in Kiev. Everything looks pretty standard and nice out there, guys. Just want to make sure I could actually play this because I want to check back in at the end of the stream too. But yeah, everything's fine in Kiev right now, guys. So that's good, right? Right. Let's pause that. We'll come back to that later. We will definitely come back to that later. But let's get through the first half of the stream. Maybe we'll come back to it halfway and at the end. Sound good? Nobody's here yet. Is that my moderator on there? Yeah. Well, this will get us started, guys. Toast went up, drink went up, whatever you got to do. If you have to, do both.
A tweet earlier today. I said, imagine if Africa didn't have to deal with imperialism, or all of the Americas didn't have to deal with imperialism. Like, what type of continents would they be? Like,
it wouldn't be called anything but Africa, first of all. Remember, it got the breaking, I guess you call it balkanization once again, and these false borders. That was created by Westerners. That wasn't Africa was Africa. That's why for so long people were confused. They're like, hold up, I thought Africa. We always say Africa is a continent, not a country. It was a continent and a country, like Australia was forever. That's why people didn't know the difference. For real, people don't know that. Like, but you got places like Mozambique, which is like it's named that because the Portuguese named it that. Cote d'Ivoire. That's because who named it that? The French named it that. Like, there's so many countries where it's obvious who named them what they are named because, like South Africa. Africa wasn't a country, or excuse me, Africa was still a country in a continent at the same time. So the only thing you could call it was South Africa. What the hell else would you call it? Hell, Africa itself is like an American, or excuse me, I guess is British technically, like so British, UK, Queen's English. Like I don't think that's what Africans were calling it at the time. So it's like everything about Africa to this degree, to this point, is what could have been. Would we even be speaking about the U.S. in the same way? If I mean, shit, obviously we don't want Africans to go out there and start, doing all the imperialism that the U.S. was doing. But if the U.S. empire and the British empire were never allowed to be what they became, and Africans actually fought back and were unified to some degree and stood up for themselves, would we even be having this conversation about the U.S.? Would you or I even be here? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's
beat
Africa is wild. That the thought experiment there could lead you down a rabbit hole for literally years trying to do a thesis about that
Man.
shit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because I was thinking about it, because and I know this is the nerd in me. It's it is what it is. But like, and yeah, this is highly propagandized. But still, the movie Black Panther, like that showed like what a African country would be if it wasn't propagandized at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Black Panther probably got it the most right out of any like American like depiction of the Black experience. I feel like that, and I gotta give a shout out to Krugler for that one because first of all, I think he was under 30 when he started that movie, working with actors that I'm sure, like literally, I think Chadwick Boseman probably was doing James Brown when Coogler was still a teenager. Like that's how like magnificent of an actor or actors and actresses that they were working with. Bro, Coogler is young as hell, dog. He looked like a kid, like when he was doing the round table with the rest of the MCU directors, he looked like a child, like that was just so happy to be there. And what was funny was that he realized, like, this is how brilliant of a film it was. His movie was the only movie, including Infinity War and Endgame, that all of the directors were there on the opening night in the same room, because that's how brilliant it was. Like you managed to show, obviously, the Americanized what it means to like be taken advantage of by American imperialism, the poverty direction, like the Americans that he hated so much, like the white people, the white imperialists that he hated so much. But that's what happens in real life. I see it all the time. Like that is literally what happened, and how Africa itself sometimes can be put on a pedestal. Or some of the countries and its leaders can be put on a pedestal, and they put themselves on the pedestal, but they don't ever take credit for being directly influential in the Killmonger outcomes and how they treat us and look down on us and think that we are lesser than because of us for circumstances that weren't in our control that led to us being African American instead of just African. And then you get I mean, obviously the Black women, how like literally, and this is a consistent theme. I don't know if you've noticed throughout Marvel, like the smartest person in Marvel is Shuri.
I don't watch any of these movies, so I have no concept of what he's talking about. I apologize. I mean, there's good conversations in between, obviously, but I don't know anything about the movies. So when he talks about the movies, it's just way over my head. I apologize. I don't watch those movies. I don't watch any movies. I'm a political junkie. I love politics. I love news.
Came out
Documentaries. Love documentaries.
she's about to be the Black Panther on top of all that. And the replacement for Iron Man, Ironheart, Black woman. Like the most powerful people who are not superpowered, like the Dora Milaje, are the most powerful warriors in the world. Like literally, I don't know if you've seen Falcon and Winter Soldier, but they put hands on all three of them, put paws on them.
She literally disarmed Bucky Barnes.
Bro, that shit was. She said the Dora Milaje have jurisdiction whatever the Dora Milaje find themselves to be. I was like, it's like if you think otherwise, go ahead and try to fight them. Go ahead. And look what happens. Like they got so many, and really because in Black culture, Black women are considered to be the backbone of Black culture and Black society, and it's the same in Africa too. So it touched so many, but I like the reconciliation aspect of it, right? Where you have Chadwick Boseman, who's playing T'Challa, confront him and all his ancestors. That was the thing. That was the part to me that was like, they got everything. And I know Black people, you know how Black people are, boy, they can be some crab in the bucket motherfuckers. They can do that. They was going out there waiting to be like, watch them fuck this shit up. Watch the mess. Nope. They hit every single note. They hit every single, and the reconciliation. You were wrong. You should not have abandoned them. Because now all the crime, him having to kill his brother came because of what? Because Wakanda they're like, oh, you can't bring the refugees in. Why? Well, because then their problems become our problems. Well, I don't know if some of y'all seen Avengers Infinity Wars, but when you can stop a fucking spaceship from landing on your goddamn home with a shield, I think that you can handle refugees.
Yeah.
It's not the alien invasion. I think you can handle a couple of refugees. But there's that mindset, like that the isolationist mindset that a lot of Africans have, because they're also jaded, obviously, by imperialism. But the overall message of the movie, in my humble opinion, was like, bro, we've all been subject to this imperialism, all of us, and we've all been victims, and it's all manifested in different ways. And so, but the Wakanda, the way it looked, where the city was integrated with the nature, like in the area, that's how cities should look. That's how it should look, right? So I mean, I love the movie. It's just one of my favorite masterpieces of like that I've ever seen. Like I always love as visually, as a Black man, it resonates with me on both sides. As a person who's been a veteran, and as a person who like just has had like responsibility thrusted on his shoulders by his family when you're just trying to figure all this shit out. And then you realize, I saw this tweet the other day, it's beautiful. It said, hey man, anybody else having to be parents to their parents lately? And it's like, that's how it feels though. So I loved it.
Yeah. And just as a point, when he went to the ancestral plane and he told the former kings that all of them were wrong, I want to do that to the Congressional Black Caucus. Especially when it comes to the 94 crime bill. I want to be like, all y'all, because every single time I bring up, the 94 crime bill about Biden, you get liberals in the comments going, but the Congressional Black Caucus, they were the ones who thought it was a good idea. And I'm like, they were wrong.
They were wrong. I don't know what's hard about
And so
over and over again, over and over. The Congressional Black Caucus also voted to support the war in Afghanistan. The Congressional Black Caucus also voted to give weapons to militant groups and terrorist groups in Africa to kill other Africans. I mean, that part where Killmonger said, remember when he was like, that he murdered his own brothers and sisters in Africa just to be there. You can tell that shit hurt him to his soul, but he had become so warped at that point that he's like, just get to the end, and as a Black man in society, they're selling drugs to their own people just to get, because they believe that the end will justify the means, that the peace that they think they will get eventually will be justified by their actions. It will never be true, but like that's where Black people. Now I will say this though, T'Challa, man, that boy be going from 0 to 100 sometimes, dog. Like whenever he was chasing Claw and he's like talking to them before he get, I'll bring him back alive. I'm gonna bring him back. And when he saw Claw, it was a whole different thing. He was like, mercy, king. Every breath you take is mercy from me. I was like, bro, what the hell happened to this? Bringing him back shit. Bro, he did the same thing in Infinity Wars. When they was like, let's go negotiate. Let's see if we can talk them off the ledge. We can find some middle ground here. And Captain America's like, man, come on, guys. Let's talk this out. We don't have to spill no blood here.
I really hope they move on to the next subject, because I have no fucking clue what this is about. I went from Africa to Thanos. Or, I guess Thanos, yeah. No, I know Thanos is from the universe, the Marvel universe. And then imperialism. So, hopefully it's not like the whole middles. I thought this was going to be kind of more of a, not just movie talk, because I don't know fucking movies. I have no clue what they're talking about. I do dabble in a tiny bit of comedy, very, very comedy, and it's usually very repetitive. It's just stuff I've already seen, and I don't do a lot of new stuff. And if it's new stuff for me, I mean, I do enjoy the Dune universe. I've read all those books. I love that. I do enjoy Doctor Who, so I would like to catch up on that TV show, but I'm just not that big of a TV show person. So, like, Doctor Who's more of an experience, those hour-long movies almost. Like, so yeah, I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know these movies. Been out of movies for like 15, 16 years.
And she's like, oh man, we got our army, we good, man. And then he's like, oh no, y'all got this fucked up. That's not what I mean. I ain't bring all these go to the Malaj and all these groups together just to hang out. Nah, you are in
Wakanda now. You will
have nothing but dust and blood. I'm like, well, there you go. Well, I guess that's all that. Like, damn, bro, you gotta tell people before you just gonna drop some shit like that.
He said, "You
Yeah,
are
man.
on
I'm
the
a miss
I'm
Chadwick
like,
Boseman
yo."
as T'Challa.
That was hilarious. Yeah.
I was like, me and my wife were like, yo, he just took that shit to 100. Like, if there was any chance at a peaceful resolution here, that shit is dead. Like,
It is dead. Because then Proxima Midnight was like, well, we have blood to spare. And I was like, okay, well, I guess we choosing violence now.
Yo, so fun fact, remember that part where they were like, oh, where's your friend? And she was like, he'll pay you'll pay for his life with yours.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you noticed, a lot of people thought that they were talking about Ebony Maw, but that wasn't what they thought. They had killed what's his name, the dude that ends up going to get Vision. And so Proxima said that so that they would think that he wasn't there while he was going to get Vision. And so whenever Wanda comes on, she was like, why was she standing up there the whole time? And then they flip to the screen where they're going to hunt Vision.
Mm-hmm.
Where that's who actually Proxima was talking about, but she lied so they wouldn't be looking for him.
Yeah. And that was and actually Corvus Glaive is Proxima Midnight's husband. So
yes, exactly. And it's also should be important. It's also important to mention, guys. It's funny how they literally just ran to black people to save the world again, ran to Africa, save the world. Like I was like, yep, here we go. Hey, black people, real quick, y'all mind saving them? I'm like, bruh, they got black. And then T'Challa, I mean, because this is how most black people are. We're, hey, man, if we can help, we'll help. Sure, whatever. Just bring Thanos' entire army here. What's the problem? Cool, we can handle it. Like, it's just a default. And Captain America knew they would not deny that man. He knew they wouldn't. Like, I got somewhere we can go. I know somewhere we can do this. I know I can leave Bucky, a fucking, ex-KGB Hydra agent, like who was on the run from the entire world. Yeah, we'll house him. I know that's like an international crime or whatever, but it's cool. We can do it. Whatever, Mm-hmm. Like, that's how black people are, generally speaking. So it's just funny to me that they recognize it in the MCU. And one of the reasons that I've always loved the MCU, really more than like DC, for example.
I don't even know what MCU means. I've lost the conversation. I'm so lost. I just hope to come back to Russia or USA or something. I don't know what's happening.
It's specifically because of everything that we're talking about right now, which is like this internal struggle within either of the industry, politics, the corporate world, whatever. Like, there is always this internal struggle for meaningful representation.
I have to say thank you for that because, I've had mic issues, I've had internet dropping on me issues, and now I've had, last night I had the software connecting and verifying issues. So I've had the internet dropping me Monday night early, last night connection issues, and I think Sunday or Monday I also had the microphone not quite working for the first third of the show. So I think everything's working today. I think everything's good. Thank you for letting me know.
And MCU falls back on this idea, like, why would we not get the best person for the role? And why would we not, like, it would make sense that the black woman who is the son of or the daughter of kings and queens, who's working with vibranium, which gives you a hell of a learning curve, would be the smartest person in the MCU. It makes sense, honestly. And I love the fact that she's so flippant about it. She don't give a shit. She was laughing at them. She's like, why didn't you program the cells to work, whatever the hell? I don't remember what she said, but she was trying to take the soul out of Vision. And she was like laughing at them like, how did y'all not think of this? This is super easy.
Like, I'm sure
it makes sense, though.
Yeah.
T'Challa being so jaded made sense. Why he was how he was when his dad got killed, it made sense. Ironically, his dad did get killed, though, because of how uninvolved Wakanda had been in Africa up to that point, or really around the world, right? Because that's why the Avengers were needed, because Wakanda had the tools to fix a lot of those issues. But and the standoffish nature because of how much Tony Stark contributed to the military-industrial complex, him and Chadwick Boseman never talked to each other. People don't realize that. There's a reason there was never a vibranium suit. Why would I give you that? Think about it. Like, they hit every note when it comes to the black experience. And why? Because black people are sitting at the table. That's why. That's what representation actually looks like. And guess what? Now that everything they drop, billion. Why? Because you got the best people for the job. Because you had active and inclusive representation there.
Mm-hmm. True. Man, I love how we can just mix in policy, geopolitical politics, in with, nerd culture.
Yeah, man, it's all related, bro. It's all related. One of the reasons I can't even watch DC anymore. I can't even do it, dog. Because Batman's a fucking
dark,
cop.
like literally too dark. Like
Batman's a cop, but all the evil people in Batman are freaking politicians. And I've said that before, man. They all look like, I mean, the Joker is Biden maybe. It's maybe even Hillary Clinton, the way she smiles all evil like. Like, I have a whole bit, and I'll have to rewrite it up again because, yeah, like the the DC villains are really like our DC Washington DC. Yeah, it's kind of gross and scary and yeah, the Penguin is obviously Dick Cheney. He was, I mean, just whack, whack, shit you in the face, haha, whack, whack, shot you in the face, haha, your fault, haha. Like, I mean, the guy's fucking evil. He's probably killed more people than anybody in history, possibly. How many wars he pushed us into?
Like, it's too dark. Like,
maybe not anyone in history, but I mean, in recent American history, he is massive. Okay, in recent human history, in my lifetime, he is definitely number one in my lifetime. But, like, yeah. So I didn't mean ever, but like in my lifetime, Dick Cheney is way up there.
I literally, like, if I can shut off my TV, it's like, where is everybody at? I can't see.
Man, I wish that was just the case. No, because Black Widow was dark. I love Black Widow. That's one of my favorite movies now, actually. It's like, that movie was amazing. It's like, low key, if you haven't watched Black Widow, go watch it. It's basically an expose of the entire Epstein trafficking ring. And also Black Widow's kind of convinced me that, what's his name from, who wrote Smells Like Teen Spirit?
Nirvana?
Oh.
I cannot remember. Kurt Cobain. There you go. Kurt Cobain. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he got killed. I'm pretty sure he didn't kill himself.
I agree.
Yeah, that's a whole different.
I agree. Crazy conspiracy theorist, We listen to interesting facts and figures and we think about things critically. But I agree with him.
Different thing. Because Kevin Feige low-key be snitching on people. He be snitching on the empire, bro. You gotta watch. You gotta be. You notice, I don't know if you ever seen Winter Soldier.
I did.
But that was basically exposing the deep state. How they thought that they were the good guys. A lot of people in that organization thought they were the good guys, right? Then Hydra has been there this whole time, incubating. And everybody associated Hydra, right, quote unquote Nazis, with Germany, right? But I don't know if you ever watched all of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they exposed that Hydra was actually started by the United States. Yeah.
Oh,
that's how that shit they be hitting it. And meanwhile, Batman be trying to do everything except for go to therapy. That's what he do everything to avoid that shit. Like, so what's the problem in
I do have to say I have to confess I've been a fan of Nico for a while, and when we went to Jimmy Dore back in October, we sat like 5-6 seats away from him. I was 5-6 seats away from Nico House watching Jimmy Dore. That's a good experience for me. That was pretty cool.
Gotham, man, the mob and everybody just keeps buying everybody off, man. And they buy the judges off. They buy the attorneys off and the cops off. Well, aren't you the richest man like in the world? Just buy them off with better paying jobs and infrastructure. Like you're literally spending billions on. You seen the Dark Knight Rises, right, with Bane? Yeah. Remember how they put out all those tanks, all those weapons, all those ships. How many? Couple billion, few billion, maybe, for all that shit that was out of his garage. You didn't think, man? Let me reinvest that in the community.
You know what the sad part is? That speech in front of Blackgate Prison, Bane was actually throwing bars. He was actually sounding like a revolutionary. And I'm like, wait, after I came to the left, I was like, hold up. And I listened to the Bane speech again. I'm just like,
yeah, it sucks that he was full of shit to some degree. Like that bothered, but it also like he was full of shit too, right? Because he was never intended on actually liberating, allowing the people to run that city.
Yeah,
He was
he
never
was just
intended
using the
because I was going to
lingo.
blow it up. That lets you know you got to watch out for some people who got a loud microphone, but just be saying some really nice shit. The leftist movement can relate to that a little bit. But
Yeah.
you look at, bro, this idea of Superman, the white savior, right? It's the same concept. It's Wonder Woman, royalty. Like everybody with a superpower is some type of, even the green, like all these people are wealthy or from royalty. Or like why the whole reason Superman exists is because of elitist class privilege. Because his parents were some of the best scientists on Krypton, couldn't stop the goddamn planet from blowing up, but some of the best scientists on Krypton where they can build him a spaceship, have the infrastructure to keep the spaceship just in case, and program it to send their child to a different planet where he's now a superhero. Mm-hmm. Literally everything about that is you had an inherent advantage. Whereas a lot of the Marvel characters, MCU characters, were born out of disadvantage, right? Or if they did have an advantage, like Tony Stark. Tony Stark got humbled in the first movie. They humbled that motherfucker. First movie. Yep, you're kidding now because you're dumb. Fix this shit. Mm-hmm. And then he spends his billions of dollars doing what? Helping people now. So it's like that with DC. I always say like, yo, I feel like DC is just a bunch of white dudes that sit around the table and like. They just like talk about how great it would be if they made superheroes that were just like white people that got away with everything they wanted. Like it doesn't make their story. What is Apocalypse like? Not Apocalypse, excuse me. What is Darkseid's goal? Why does he want to destroy the planet exactly? Jay, do you know?
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, we do know he wants to do it though, right?
I can tell you Thanos, but
Thanos, he said.
Yeah, like for instance, even though I know the comic book Thanos, but basically, I mean, in the comic book Thanos was trying to do it to get some tail. Let's be real.
Yeah, he was. You
kind of understand that, though, you know. But,
yeah. But MC was good at making sure they're like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Let's fix this.
But in the movies in the MCU, you had a lot of people going, damn, Thanos got a point. It's warped, but he does have a point.
Mm-hmm. It's but here's see, and that's
okay. I do know the Thanos thing, and the one thing I know about it is that I was rooting for him in the movie that I watched. The one movie that I watched, I was rooting for him. But I also know that that's a human outlook on things. Because I don't think every planet would have overpopulated and overabused its resources. I don't think that's an inherent greed and corporate greed and elitism and greed. I don't think that's a species thing. I don't think every species does it. I think we fucked up and did it. So no, I don't think that the rest of the universe is as fucked up as us. And maybe they have visited us and are like, you guys need to figure your shit out before we fuck with you because y'all are just messed up.
See, this is the other thing about the MCU. There's a lot. Like I've watched so much MCU so many times because
I'm gonna say, "What up, Jeff?" Yeah, freaking, it works again tonight. If I think you were on the other night when it actually cut out too. So yeah, my internet cut out on my stream Monday night. Last night I couldn't stream because of the software. I'm back. And I don't watch movies, so I don't know what these guys are talking about, but they're both really good people to listen to, so it's an interesting conversation either way.
I just am way too into politics. And like I've learned to now look at, because of, it's kind of the respect I have for Kevin Feige, really. I'm like, there's not a movie that he's put out that doesn't have a mental health. Iron Man was exposing the military-industrial complex. Civil War, they take the man who was supposed to be this, like when Captain America was originally created, even in the comics, it was a propaganda piece. And they say he then stands up to the empire. He challenged the empire, and now the man who's supposed to be representative of America is shunned and becomes public enemy number one of the U.S. government for standing up to them. Because what is the most patriotic thing you can do, really, which is stand up to your government. And that's what he did. Like the messages have been there consistently if you're looking for them. And with Thanos, so the whole premise of the resources, right? Which was genius, by the way. But do you know what he says in Endgame that no one catches? And I thought this before Endgame even came out, and I kind of ruined it. I don't even tell people until they're ready to hear it, but it's been so long. I'm like, all right, guys, so why the fuck didn't he just snap his fingers and double the resources? And you want to know how he could do it? Because he literally says, oh man, y'all came back and taught me that as long as there are people to remember what there was, they'll never be there except what can be. So I'm going to strip the universe down to its last atom and then rebuild it. So in other words, you could have just doubled the fucking resources.
Yeah.
Literally.
He could.
But that's how people like fucking Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum and a lot of these like Bill Gates, they always talk about the scarcity of no, there's no scarcity. First of all, there's no scarcity of resources.
There's only scarcity of resources if you think that everything needs to funnel up to you, and you're like, it's getting a little tight. I don't want to share things. I don't want things to topple. I don't want to share things. You guys need to slow the population down. I don't like, because Alex Jones once said, Alex Jones once said, he talked to a friend that was at these meetings, and they said that we have to rather entertain them or kill them, and they said we got to do both. Be watching out. So yeah, that's that may be the craziest true thing he said.
When you combine the amount of resources with technology and innovation, there is absolutely, but without the idea of scarcity, without the lie of scarcity, well, capitalism falls flat, don't it?
Yes. Yeah. Because I mean, you just linked about how the idea that Thanos thinks that, well, there's not enough to go around, and it's like you literally have the entire resource of the universe in your hand in order to double or even triple or quadruple it.
And then what does he do instead? Takes away. Exactly. And that's exactly what the powerful do in real life.
Yeah. So
right now we have all the resources, all that. Yeah, there is no difference. No, they're literally that is them. Thanos is them for sure. Like, like but that was Kevin Feige's point. There was some things about Thanos that they did on purpose. Same thing. So like I don't know if you remember, but in Guardians, I want to say the end of Age of Ultron, Thanos' eyes are like bright purple CGI. They went out of their way to make him to give them Josh Brolin's real eyes, because your eyes, you communicate with your eyes. Mm-hmm. So everything Thanos did was genuine. You never question him, and they actually go out of their way to make a big deal about him not lying. Because when you're not scared of anybody, why the fuck do you need to lie, right? So, yeah. And so when he says something like that, you don't think about, right? When Gamora tells Peter to kill her, right? Mm-hmm. And he does it, and Thanos like turns his gun into bubbles. Like he's like, oh, I like him. Mm-hmm. That was genuine. He genuinely liked him for Gamora, for his daughter, which is kind of weird, but it's.
He just said he turned his gun into bubbles and just kept going. Oh, that's fucking hilarious. That's the funniest thing I've heard today. And he just didn't even. I'm sorry if you watch the movies, that might be just a thing to you, but that's fucking hilarious to me.
He says, "You've earned my respect, Stark. When I'm done, half the universe will be gone, but I hope that half still remembers you."
Yeah.
Which also demonstrates nothing. It's not personal for him. He's detached from it. But that they hit so many notes, bro. Like even with everybody that knows me or watches my show, no, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is my favorite movie in the world. Like it is not even close. Because if you ever watched it with me on shrooms, you would figure it out really quickly. But Ego's not really cool.
Okay, well I mean, in my head I was going seriously, but I don't watch those kind of movies. So, and then when he said if you watch it on shrooms, I was like, okay. Oh, that's funny. That's funny to me.
Dad in the comic book, right? You know that Ego was made Quill's dad because James Gunn was trying to communicate a point literally about Ego, right? So Quill meets Ego, who ends up being his. For those of you who don't know, Chris Pratt's character, Star Lord, his dad is a Celestial named Ego, who keeps Mantis, an empath, around as a pet because he cannot sleep without the empath around to put him to sleep. In the whole movie, he's actually gaslighting them. Like every time Quill's like, "Well, why did you leave my mom? I loved your mom. Why are you?" He's like, "Oh, well, what the fuck? Okay, all right." Then he changed the subject, and then he up. And when he comes into the movie, I don't know if you've seen Guardians 2, but I don't know if you noticed when Ego comes into the movie, the whole team splits up. The found family.
Okay, I don't. I mean, there's been some fun back and forth about politics in the movie, but not enough because I don't know the movies, and I hope that was entertaining for people because that was my intro. But we're gonna get to some actual RBN, some Revolutionary Blackout Network. They had a clip. They actually clipped something. I love it. I didn't have to find it, although I think I probably watched this live because I watched the whole thing and just didn't pay attention because a lot of times I just watch it while I'm doing stuff. But they did a clip, so I think that'd be a good intro to our news day.
Massive violation of international law in this case, if they cross the border and actually try to take the country. Obviously, you freeze all Russian assets all across the world. I don't care who it is, every oligarch, anything related to Putin, seize. Now, again, there'll be some idiots not idiots, to be fair, they're grifters. And I don't know who they're working for, some portion of them, but they'll pretend, people pretending to be on the left, okay? And maybe a couple of people who actually are on the left and are, don't understand.
Okay, first of all, and I didn't know that. I hadn't looked her up in a week or so. Question, yeah, I do not know that yet. Shit. Fucking, yeah, this guy fucking, just war hungry. Why are you, like, if you're gonna call somebody, like, canceling the entire side of the left because they don't agree with you on the way to go to war is ridiculous, okay? And I'm going to keep yelling about cancer culture and canceling the left. Like, you can disagree with the left on, I think if you disagree with somebody 25% of the time, that's fine. You can still call them, I am definitely fucking left. And that guy is not. But, like, true leftists, I mean, if you agree with somebody 75% of the time, whatever the other 25%, just talk. But don't cancel somebody because there's a big issue and they disagree with you. One big issue does not mean to cancel somebody. Does not mean they're not on your side. Fucking jackass.
World politics at all, who are like, oh my God, freezing the assets of oligarchs. That's so warlike. Him taking Ukraine with 175,000 troops is not warlike, but freezing their assets is? Are you insane, right? So, and what about the people of Ukraine? Do they count? Are they human beings? As a progressive, do you care about them? Do you care about their freedom? Do you care about their rights? Right? So now once you get beyond freezing the assets, that's when it gets impossible.
Right.
Because what are you going to do, start a war with Russia?
He's saying that if you're anti-war, you're a grifter. You're a grifter if you're anti-war. So this video is this is one of the most insane videos I've seen from Cenk Uygur. Because you see how he was simping for neo-Nazis? He was simping for neo-Nazis. What about Ukrainian people? Oh, you mean the ones that we arm neo-Nazis to hijack the country and overthrow the country like we have done? You mean that country? Yeah, but I'm literally, every single thing he said in that video was wrong. And he was like, oh, if we don't let this happen, China will take Taiwan. Taiwan is part of China. This motherfucker is the dumbest person I have ever seen. I cannot believe
Nick, do you think he's doing it on purpose or you think he's just not informed? That's what I can't tell from him.
And I can't wait to talk to Caleb about this, but he 100% a pro-war asset. Because he was like, remember, he repeating the talking point from the Biden administration. I just shared with you how people are not buying this hysteria. But look at what he leaves the video. He leaves the video with if Russia invades. If Russia invades. He's repeating.
Oh man, that's crazy. I did not know I did not Tulsi spoke at Steve had. I think everybody on the left has an opinion, though, huh? Yeah, I didn't even know. That's funny. But Secular Talk, TYT, David Packman, Majority Report, they all have an opinion. That's funny. The Hill. Oh, Democrats lose it over Tulsi's CPAC appearance. That's funny, because it seems that it's the Humus report, damage report. Yeah, that's all TYT and what I would call the faux left, the grifter left, maybe. I don't know. That seems to be a new thing. Fox. I hadn't heard of it. It didn't even hit my radar, honestly. And that's funny, because it's funny what can miss. Yeah. Sorry. I will look into that later, but I had no idea she spoke there, and it seems that it very much upset the Secular Talk TYT crowd. Sam Cedar, Humus Report, several things from the TYT networks. That is funny. No, I did not know. Ooh-wee. All right. So there were some medical updates. I want to do the 420 episode, right? This is what it is. Weed Wednesday. All right. So there were a couple states I wanted to hit today. I think I wanted to do Missouri and Kentucky. There's a bit more on Missouri, but Kentucky was quick. I'm going to start it out with the video clip. The video clip. Wow. Yep. Need another smoke.
Delta 8 in the same category as marijuana, meaning if the bill passes, Delta 8 would be regulated in the very same way. WHS 11's Bobby McSwine is talking to one shop owner who's hoping the bill's language changes.
502 hemp store owner Dee Dee Taylor says she's at a crossroad. Support the bill that aligns with her beliefs on marijuana or fight for her business. She says it's a position she shouldn't be in.
I truly believe it is a legal product, period, and that it's not a form of marijuana, that it is from the hemp plant, and that it's legal.
Taylor explains Delta 8 comes from hemp, and CBD also comes from hemp. She says producers use a natural process to convert the CBD into Delta 8. Ultimately, Delta 8 products are made. It must be under the 0.3% Delta 9 THC limit. It's important to note that Delta 8 is different from Delta 9, which is found in marijuana. Delta 8 is a psychoactive product with less strength than Delta 9.
So that's why I felt comfortable in the beginning to sell it, because I did my homework.
But that all changed when the Kentucky Department of Agriculture.
Damn. I think she's smacking the government there, which is fantastic. I do love a good slap of the government.
Sent Delta 8 sellers a letter saying it's not hemp and therefore illegal. It's a battle Taylor and other sellers have been in court about.
I think things are going to go well in our favor. We followed the law.
Still, this leaves Taylor unable to fully support the pre-filed legislation because it labels Delta 8 as marijuana. Co-author Patrick Dunnigan understands.
Now, unfortunately, bills when they first introduced are not going to be the most perfect bills, right? And when it gets through session, it's going to be a completely different bill. I mean, it could be a bill that I would not even support when it finally gets to the governor's desk.
Dunnigan says he's going to work to get Delta 8 removed from the bill. And if the court makes the decision first, problem solved. Overall, he says years of advocacy is behind the bill, and it's for all Kentuckians.
And this is a baby step process, right? We know we're trying to do something that's beneficial to the state of Kentucky, and we're just trying to make it the right way.
In Louisville, Bobby McSwine, WHAS.
Just trying to drag their feet. Every freaking state, I mean, not every state, but most states, the people legalize it. They put the bill across. It takes 2 years for state legislation to drag their asses and make sure they give it away to corporations, that they make it as hard as possible. So the MPP, always a good site to check. This is going to have our link for the day if you want to go check out mpp.org. For Kentucky, there's something to sign here, but on February 20 of 2020, the Kentucky House of Representatives voted at 65-30 to pass medical marijuana cannabis bill. This was the first time the House ever voted. Sadly, the pandemic reached the U.S. in an opportune time, and the state adjourned without voting on the bill. The setback was tremendous disappointment for patients who have been working for many years to convince the legislation to pass medical cannabis legislation. Sadly, the state continued to resist consideration for the issue in 2021. And other passing legislations reintroduced cannabis. It did not advance. If you live in Kentucky, take the time to write your legislation and support a medical cannabis, or call your state's officer. Both of these links are on the MPP site. Please check that out. I think both of these were for Missouri. Like I said, Kentucky didn't have a whole lot. You guys are a little ways away. You guys lost in the House and your own Congress, your own state Congress. So push hard, E. But let's look at Missouri, hey? Stone and Progressive. Missouri, you guys are working on it. In Missouri, there are 3 initiatives cleared for circulation that would legalize and regulate recreational marijuana. The initiatives, hey, Missouri is a good state to go camping, go hiking and biking. We want it recreational there, right? The initiatives were filed by 3 different sponsors. A constitutional amendment to change the state's medical marijuana program approved by voters in 2018 was also cleared for circulation. It would allow medical marijuana patients to grow for personal use, decrease the cost of patient identification card from $100 to $25, and allow up to 3 primary caregivers for a medical marijuana patient. The signature requirement for the Constitution amendments is 16,000 signatures by May 8th. May 8th, guys, for the signatures in Missouri. It's 2 separate campaigns for the 2022 ballot. The legal 2022 kickoff campaign was last month, and this was from a month and a half ago, guys. And so there's 2 initiatives. There's that more medical, more open and cheap medical, and then the recreational. And again, for Missouri, please check out MPP or even Ballotpedia. Get your links if you know anybody in the area. And I do have
Can you stop sugar cravings?
advertisements, of course. I have advertisements because YouTube loves them.
Legalizing recreational marijuana in Missouri is ramping up efforts to get their initiative on next November's ballot. 5 on your side's Tracy Henson is here. You attended the event today, so what is on this petition?
Okay, so the group is Legal Missouri 2022, and they highlighted key parts of that petition. Some of them you may guess, so legalizing the possession, purchase, consumption, and cultivation of marijuana for adults over 21. Now, they also are pushing for criminal reform around some marijuana convictions.
The automatic expungement provision does not apply to a small number of violent offenses or those whose offenses involved distribution to a minor or operating a motor vehicle while under the influence of marijuana.
Mallory Rush is with Empower Missouri, an anti-poverty advocacy group and organizer of the Criminal Justice Coalition.
With marijuana already being legal for millions of Americans, it is completely nonsensical to continue to penalize and punish individuals for current or past use.
Standing with Rush, Adolphus Pruitt of the St. Louis NAACP.
Hell yeah.
This initiative will address or be what we would consider one of the largest single criminal justice reform efforts in the state's history.
He cites a 2020 report from the ACLU that marijuana reform isn't only a criminal justice issue, but a racial issue. Blacks
were 2.6 times more likely than whites to be arrested for marijuana possession. Even worse, in Johnson, Lafayette, and Lincoln counties, blacks were 10 times more likely to be arrested for low-level marijuana possession charges.
He added that from 2010 to 2018, 50% of all drug arrests in Missouri were on low-level possession charges.
Of course they were.
Tells it all
It's just
that
a
it
reason.
is time that we legalize marijuana across the state.
It's just a reason to pull people over. It's just a reason. It's fucking ridiculous.
And at the same time make sure that those folks who were impacted more than others have the opportunity to have their records expunged automatically.
Medical marijuana is currently legal in Missouri. Recreational is legal in Illinois. The Legal MO 2022 campaign faces an uphill battle. Organizers need to gather around 90,000 signatures from the St. Louis area and about 100,000 more from across the state before a proposal would end up on the ballot.
Oh, they make us jump through hoops, don't they? There was another on it. I want to see what they had to say too.
Finally, I can experience a humiliating loss to a 13-year-old without lagging out.
Finally, we can take social. It seems that it is a constant commercial ballot. I don't know what's happening right now. Can't ever get through it. Move on, move on, move on.
Adult use cannabis in Missouri.
And if either effort gets far enough, people in Missouri could vote to legalize recreational marijuana next May. Our reporter Sarah Plake breaks down all the details.
These petitions would open up the market to recreational cannabis. And a lot of the business owners who were denied in the medicinal process wonder if this could be their ticket in. Fair Access Missouri just filed petitions looking to legalize adult use cannabis for people over 21. They were just sent to the Secretary of State's office, so they have several more hurdles to go through before it would land on next year's ballot.
The idea here is to enable consumers to have access to good products at good prices, to keep them from having to participate in any sort of illicit activities.
What makes this effort different from others is that it doesn't include licensing caps, opening up the market. This is starkly different from the state's medicinal program, which shut out more than 1,000 hopeful business owners by capping the licenses at 348.
The average, even the everyday individual who won't be a cannabis consumer will enjoy benefits because that's increased tax revenues. Maybe we can get some work done on our roads.
I think it will allow people to get in on it. For example, this property you're seeing behind me was meant to be a dispensary.
Mark Jones's applications for a dispensary and cultivation facility at 39th and Woodland were denied, though he owns 2 cannabis facilities in Oklahoma. He says the prices in Missouri are outrageously high compared to Oklahoma, a state booming with dispensaries.
I think recreational is coming whether I want it or not. I would like it to stay medical, but I want access to patients who need it. That at a decent price. That shouldn't be too much to ask.
From here, the petitions need the Attorney General's approval. Then they would go through several more steps before Fair Access could start gathering 171,000 signatures. Sarah Blake, 41 Action News.
Oh, you're coming at me too much, man. Just doing too much, dude. I can't. All right, this I think you're being a little bit ADD, so I can't follow you. No, I'm not doing all of those. All right, well, we figured that out. I picked this up for next after our little clip there, and this has gotten like ratioed. This has gotten massively hit, and I wanted to check it out. I have not seen it. I don't watch Kyle at all anymore. I think I've done it once on the stream, guys. And I, never done it again. But he seems to be getting talked about quite a bit at the left and right and whatnot by getting ratioed from this clip and some tweets that he had about this subject. So I would like to watch the clip, I guess. I don't think I can handle him for 27 minutes, so A, I'm going to speed up a touch, and B, I am going to only watch half of it or so, and C, I'm going to go grab another beer because, I don't love this guy that much. So I'll be right back. Right back.
Ukraine, Russia has now gotten to a fever pitch. It has escalated to violence. Violence is now happening. That is not good. Some people think it's hyperbolic when I say we have the potential of World War III here. I assure you it is not hyperbolic. When you have 2 nuclear-armed powers effectively in a proxy war, or it's more than that. It's like a semi-proxy war because Ukraine would be the West proxy, but Russia is Russia. And so they're not even using a proxy, they're using themselves. I mean, I guess you could say the Russian separatists who are involved in this in Ukraine would be their proxy, but you get the point. This is real serious stuff that we're dealing with. So I want to give you guys all the updates, but I'm going to warn you up front, man. when I was watching everything unfold, trying to keep up, digging, every time a new event occurred, I dug into it immediately to see what exactly is going on here. I want to make sure I get everything right for the audience. Well, guess what? You're not going to be surprised to learn there is massive disagreement as to who's the aggressor and who's on the defense. And so what I'm going to do here is tell you what both sides are saying, and then you can make up your own mind. So first, I want to go to a little news clip here from an outlet called DW News. It's a German public broadcaster. The reason I chose them to give more of the West perspective here is because I feel like they're generally a lot more balanced and less psychotic than U.S. outlets. And by the way, we'll get to U.S. outlets a little bit later in this, so I'll tell you what they're saying and the line that they're going with. But here's DW News on what's happening, and then when we get back, I'll show you what Russia is saying through RT. So take a look at this.
Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky is calling for face-to-face talks with Russia's President Vladimir Putin to resolve the crisis between their countries.
Whoa, this is only on 1 1/4. That was like 1,000 miles an hour, I feel like. She's a straight reader.
Speaking at the Munich Security Conference here in Germany. He said Ukraine will not respond to growing provocations in the eastern part of the country, but will defend itself against Russian hostility. Kiev says 2 of its soldiers died in an attack over the weekend as shelling by Russian-backed separatists intensifies.
Out as shells fall on Ukraine's eastern front. Government forces say they have been ordered to show restraint.
Right now, we don't respond to their fire because they're shooting at us now, at the command post. Our commanders don't allow us to fire, and we are following orders even if there is a wish to respond. Because the enemy is waiting for us to shoot back. But if there is no political agreement, things will get resolved with military power.
Ukraine's Interior Minister Denis Monastyrsky came under fire while visiting soldiers in the east. He was brought to safety.
I'm a civilian. I'm not a soldier. I'm shocked. And I know that the civilians who live here permanently feel this fear.
A fear that is uprooting lives as the crisis intensifies. Residents of Ukraine's separatist regions boarded trains bound for Russia. My husband said, go away, take the kids and go. Their physical and psychological health is more important than anything else. On Saturday, Russian President Vladimir Putin oversaw military drills with Belarus. The exercises include nuclear-capable missiles. NATO has joined the U.S. in warning that Russia is planning a, quote, full-fledged attack against Ukraine.
How imminent is that threat of a full-fledged attack, as was just mentioned in our report?
According to the US, but also according to NATO, it is very imminent, even though there's still some room for diplomacy, as there are ongoing talks just right now between France President Macron and President Putin. So we do not know, of course, when this is going to happen, but just the latest development here that is really increasing the pressure, according to NATO, on Ukraine is the very fact that statement from Belarus that their joint military drills with Russia are going to be extended beyond Sunday, beyond today, even though prior to that, Putin said that they are going to end on Sunday. Now, according to NATO, it's estimated about 30,000 troops are in the north, in Belarus, neighboring Ukraine, and this could be used as an invasion, as an attack to invade Ukraine, according to NATO. We do not really know, actually, as there have been so many exchange of when a threat or when an assault is going to take place. Here in Kiev, at least, people are trying to hope that there's still room here to avert and to avoid the worst, a bigger escalation.
The recent shelling of Ukrainian-controlled areas which hit a kindergarten, among other targets, has been blamed on Russian-backed separatists. Our correspondent, Matthias Bullinger, visited the area to get a first-hand view of the situation and how it's affecting local residents.
Okay, so there you have it. The main claims are Russia, or at the very least, Russian separatists within Ukraine, are firing on Ukrainian soldiers. And now you have Russian separatists in the region, who, by the way, they declared independence for 2 ethnically Russian regions in Ukraine. A lot of people in those places are now hopping on trains to Russia. Now, when I look at that, I go, ooh, that's not a good sign. Because who told them to, hey, all of you guys should hop on a train and get out of here? One would think the Russian government said to them, like, just so you know, some stuff's going to go down ski, so you might want to protect yourself and your family and skedaddle. So, I mean, that's obviously a red flag right there. Another red flag is that the war games and drills from Russia and Belarus are now continuing. They were supposed to end on Sunday. Now they're being extended beyond Sunday. French President Macron has stepped in and said, look, I'm gonna talk to Putin and I guess try to de-escalate, negotiate, or do something. That was the original news. That was the news for about half a day. And then we learned that Macron actually set up a meeting between Biden and Putin. They both agreed to it, but Biden has the caveat of, I'm only going to do it if you don't invade Ukraine. So don't invade Ukraine now, and then we meet after you've already invaded Ukraine. I'll meet with you, but don't invade Ukraine, and let's talk effectively. So, and then you also saw at the end there, the claim is Russia or Russian separatists are shooting on. They shot at a Ukrainian preschool or kindergarten, and somebody went to survey the damage over there. Some Ukrainian official went to survey the damage over there. So that's the claim from the Western side of this. Now let me show you what they're saying on RT about this. Take a look.
Ha! Of course. Thank you. I'm only going to watch a few more seconds of this because I know I'm just not going to want to hear his opinion. I apologize, but I feel like it was more 140-word characters that were hit hard, not so much
Civilians were reportedly
video.
killed in artillery shelling this morning in eastern Ukraine. It did happen in the breakaway Lugansk Republic, and we can get more details now from RT's Roman Kosarev, who's in eastern Ukraine for us. Hello to you, Roman. Just give us more details then about what we know concerning this latest attack.
Absolutely. Well, artillery duels continue in Lugansk and here in Donetsk as well. But in this particular instance, a village in self-proclaimed Lugansk People's Republic was shelled. And as the result, 2 civilians have been killed. According to representatives of the People's Militia in Lugansk, Ukrainian army tried to advance on those positions, but those attempts had failed. Now, like I said, 2 civilians were killed in this attack. Their home was completely destroyed, and they were basically buried under the rubble, and their bodies burned completely.
So Russia is claiming, oh, we weren't the aggressor. It was Ukraine who fired on us, and in fact, we have 2 dead civilians as a result of what they did. And then there was another thing I saw about some car exploded in the area that they're blaming on Ukrainian soldiers. Now, so you're getting 2 very different pictures of how this is unfolding, how it's going down. Ukraine is saying Russian separatists are the aggressors. Russia is claiming Ukraine are the aggressors. When I look through it and break it down,
Always my ADD friends. Yeah, I did have crypto on the docket today, although I don't know where it is anymore. I don't know if I actually put it up there. I had so much on there. But yeah, crypto is down, and it is painful. Yeah, because it's painful for me because I don't have any money to put into it. Although, yeah, I guess if I did, it'd be gambling anyway, right? It's all a gamble, but it is painful at the moment.
Sincere answer is, I have no idea who started it. Now,
it's super painful for me because there was a moment in time that all my Steam and Hive, all my social media blockchain currency was super valuable for like, I don't know, 3 days. And if I would have freaking transferred everything, I would have had a couple thousand in fucking, yeah, anyhow. I would have like $1,500 in freaking Litecoin right now, but even on the dip right now, yeah. Anyhow, yeah, it'd be a great time to gamble. First, I need a card that runs all the way up north and back, and then, yeah, fix these guys so I can chew and do the camping stuff and eat trail mix and shit. So, necessities before investments, man. But yeah, always pay off your debts and get necessities before you invest. But I'm still trying to earn my crypto. Doing my, I post on Mines. Mines pays out in Ethereum. Mines is way better. It doesn't track you. Mines is a great social media site to blog, to do such things. And it pays out in Ethereum.
The reason why I have no idea is very simple. On the Ukrainian side of the equation, there's a battalion that works.
You're gonna live that van life, post it on Mines, try to make some crypto.
Officially, the Ukrainian government called the Azov Battalion. They are dyed-in-the-wool neo-Nazis, and that's a known fact. And so, we've armed them, we've supported them. There was a big scandal over it. We temporarily stopped the arming of them, and then when nobody was looking, we started rearming them again. But it was a big scandal not too long ago that, we're arming neo-Nazi factions in Ukraine. So, if they're involved,
Still doing it. Absolute reports everywhere which way.
Not the most trustworthy sources. I tend to think neo-Nazis generally are bad and might skew the facts. But on the flip side, this also might be the exact situation that great, what's the guy's name? Clint Ehrlich, I think his name was. He's written for a bunch of various publications, and he had a very detailed thread as to how he thinks everything's going to unfold. And what he said is a sudden invasion from Russia is off the table, meaning, Wednesday was supposed to be the invasion. That's what the Western media outlets were reporting. There was no invasion on Wednesday. And he did a long, detailed thread where he said, look, but a possibility is Russia claims, look, we've already destroyed the West and their credibility. They were saying an invasion was going to happen on Wednesday. It didn't happen. We won without firing a shot. We're exposing, the liars that these people are. And so now we're withdrawing. Putin announces, we're going to withdraw. NATO, by the way, says they didn't withdraw. They said they were going to withdraw, then they didn't withdraw. But now you have these events that nominally drag Russia back in, where they say, hey, we tried to withdraw, but that just emboldened you guys and made you guys more aggressive, and now we have 2 dead civilians over here. So now, I have to go in, Russia has to go in to protect the ethnic Russian separatists in the region. So it's not on me, it's on you. I'm acting defensive here. And what the guy said in the thread is, it's possible that you get some sort of a false flag attack from Russia, which nominally drags them back in so they could, whine and play the victim as they're actually the aggressors. So I think of that thread as well as I'm watching what's unfolding here. I think, look, it could have been neo-Nazi elements of Ukraine that fired on Russian separatists, or it could have been, Russia sort of staging something to drag themselves back in on purpose. And the other, point of evidence in that direction is why would you amass 130,000 or 150,000 troops on the border in the first place if you didn't have some intention of going into Ukraine? So, look, man, it's hard to tell. But the other thing I want to tell you guys is, if people are giving you real concrete answers, they know what they're talking about on this front, they don't know what they're talking about. Nobody really knows. We're all doing our best to look at all the evidence, look at all the news, and read the tea leaves and sort of piece it together, because clearly we're not getting an objective picture. And beyond that, so this really is something to me. So at the same time that this is going on,
I gotta just, for 1 second. Oh, we're not getting an objective picture. I love it. Alright, let's check it out right now. Make sure to see how things are going. Alright, let's take a live look, guys, at Kiev. Live look at Kiev. Looks like everything is still just kind of chill, huh? There are some 32,000 people watching that right now, so the live stream is just freaking crazy, but everything's still good. We haven't attacked. They haven't attacked. Nobody's attacked. Kiev is still fine. Just had to do a live check-in. Well, that midway point. Make sure everything's okay. Alright. I think after all that, we can just go ahead and move on from him. And go ahead and... I was going to... So we might as well play this. I don't know if I have it somewhere set up.
Finally, I can experience a humiliating loss to a 13-year-old.
But while the stupid commercials play, this is Mark Cuban on market turbulence and the future of crypto. And as little as I care about Fox Business or Mark Cuban, the fact is that when billionaires throw their input on crypto, it does kind of sway crypto, unfortunately. So that was the fact of the world, and this is a clip that I had here saved anyway. You're talking about crypto. Let's give crypto a shout out while we have a moment. And unfortunately,
all right, futures right now drifting downward here. There is no stock trading in the United States for President's Day. That's probably a good thing.
Oh, and I don't know if this is going to throttle me because it's Fox News. Sometimes it does. If it does, we will be skipping over it quickly. So, just a reminder.
The markets, if you just even factor in what's been happening in Europe and Asia and South America, they're confused. They don't know what's going on in the Ukraine. They like to see this settled peacefully and amicably. Right now, there's been no response from Vladimir Putin that would lead to the notion that he might sit down with Joe Biden, have a summit to avoid a clash or something even worse in Ukraine. But he has so far not responded favorably to that. So the markets right now, better part of valor is to sell. That's been a theme certainly this month and year to date, where all the major averages are getting pounded. Mark Cuban knows a thing or two about money and markets. He became a billionaire doing it, owns the Dallas Mavericks, among many other things. Kind enough to join us now. Glad to see you, Mark. Thank you for coming.
I'm glad you're doing well, Neil. I'm glad you're back.
Thank you. What do you make of how the markets are digesting this? I know you've often reminded me over the many years, that markets sometimes will respond first on a good news item, buying up on it, sell first on a bad news item, selling off on it. Right now, they're very worried about the Ukraine and how that's going to work out. Is that going to be the market mood setter for the immediate future?
Yeah, I mean, markets always overreact and overcorrect to news or anticipated news, particularly after a big run-up, because speculators and investors want to protect their profits, so people run to cash. But the reality is, whether rates go to 3% or 4%, there aren't a lot of other good places to put your money. And so while there may be a lull now, just like we've seen in the past, people will come back to the markets.
All right. Right now, you're quite right. I mean, a whole generation is.
I'm going to keep this at 1 1/4 just because I'm more likely not to throttle me, not to kick us off. And then we will move on to the second half. But I hope he talks about crypto. Wink, wink.
Shocked by the prospect of mortgage rates hitting 4%. Of course, when my wife and I got our first mortgage, I think that's what we were paying per day. But I exaggerate here to make the point. Are young investors going to be spooked? Does that worry you that they, once burnt, don't want to return to these markets?
No, I mean, look, like you, my first house was at 12.75%. And, you know, as rates went down, I always thought I was getting a bonus. But young investors are getting used to crypto. They've become crypto natives. And so they're used to a lot of variability. They're used to a lot of speculative run-ups and run-downs. And so I think they'll be the least spooked of all generations.
So you're looking into crypto and sort of finding a way with this crypto app. Could you explain how that works? Obviously, you're a believer in this. But, you know, I think the last time I had you on, you talked about, look, I mean, you don't want to use every last penny and pour it into this. But by the same token, there was promise. Is there still promise?
Yeah, of course there is. I mean, crypto has different types of utility. Bitcoin is like an alternative.
So this is from about 2 days ago, guys, just so you know, have a time frame. I mean, obviously something he says is going to make the whole fucking thing spike, but his input is going to be influential to zombies, what I would call them, people who blindly follow and hero worship rich people, which unfortunately there's a lot of them out there.
The gold store of value. Ethereum has a programming language on top of it called smart contract.
Interesting that the Dow's future is somewhere right around Bitcoin right now. It's kind of funny.
That allow you to build all kinds of different applications. You have to look at investing at crypto the same way as you look at investing in anything. Do you think there's a value proposition there that consumers or businesses are going to use? If you think the answer is yes and you think it provides enough growth, then you invest. If the answer is no, you don't. The challenge in crypto, like the early days of internet stocks, is separating the signal from the noise. Back in the 1995, when all the internet companies were going public with only a website, people got all excited and invested in things just because they were there. And you see some of that with crypto as well. But the reality is, then like now, if you find a crypto token or application that really provides value and utility, that's where you invest. And that's what I look for.
The thinking was, and for a while it panned out, Mark, that Bitcoin and some of these other cryptocurrencies and investments benefited when the regular market was in a tailspin. Now the only primary beneficiary that I could see has been gold. Why is that?
Yeah, and even gold hasn't gone up that much. As markets like crypto mature, then with that maturity comes traditional investors. So you get ETFs, you get institutional investors that are investing in cryptocurrencies and crypto applications as well. You see a lot of VCs and private equity investing as well. So it's becoming more traditional. Everything that we're saying now about cryptocurrencies and applications, we said the exact same thing about the internet stocks back in the 90s.
Miami Mayor Suarez, who's going to be on with me.
There's something smart he said, right? I do like the down, down, down. Yeah, cryptocurrencies are down, but so are the Dow futures. So, but yeah, no, they love to keep saying that it's going to be canceled. It's going to be nothing. It's going to be gone. It's going to be zero. It's going to be zero. It's going to be zero. Next is zero. Zero's next. Next is zero. Is it done? Is it done now? How about now? They're calling it a drag. I mean, it's still over 2,700 for Ethereum. It's still over 100 for Litecoin. A year ago, Litecoin was at like 40 or 20. I mean, I should have bought then, right? I'd still be at 100. It went up to 200. Sure, it's 50% of what it was, but it's still solid for something that in 5 years might be 1,000.
It's talked about maybe reining in the expectations for this Miami coin, a cryptocurrency unique to the city of Miami, saying, I don't know whether it's going to work or not. The fact that it has had a bumpy launch and efforts by other mayors to maybe expand its use, does that give you pause? Are you worried?
No, it's like any business, any application, any environment. There's, in the early days, there's just a lot of craziness that goes on, and you have to look to see where the real utility is. And crypto is absolutely no different. If you look at this like you'd look at buying any application, using any app, if it works for you, you do it, and if it doesn't, you don't.
Could I switch gears? I know separately you are looking at trying to find a low-cost alternative to rocketing drug prices, and I'm just wondering, it's online, I believe, is the way you're going to do it. How will it work?
So it's called costplusdrugs.com. And what we did was basically attempt to disrupt the drug pricing industry. There's these things called pharmacy benefit managers that always act as a middleman between drug manufacturers and insurance companies and hospitals. And what we did with costplusdrugs.com is say, we're going to be vertically integrated. We're going to either manufacture drugs. We're building a plant in Dallas to manufacture as many generic drugs as we can here in the United States. And we're selling directly to consumers, patients on costplusdrugs.com. And as a result, there are drugs that sell for thousands of dollars that we're selling for $15, $20, and drugs that sell for $300 and $400, we're selling for $3 and $4. It's just such a distorted marketplace that we literally turned it upside down. And we've only been available since January 19th, and we already have hundreds of thousands of customers and thousands more signing up every day.
Maybe I've still got this COVID fog, Mark, but how are you able to cut prices that much? Who have you removed, or what entity have you taken out? It can't be just one middleman. It's got to be several.
Well, those middlemen are really, really big companies that are public that really have to keep on pushing their numbers up and hitting earnings estimates, et cetera, et cetera. We don't have to. We're a public benefit corporation.
Right? Some of their drugs are on patent here, so you can't just willy-nilly slice them.
Willy-nilly.
So there's two different types of drugs, Neil, as you know all too well. There's generics and there's brand. And for generics, we're able to go out there and either manufacture or buy them or create them ourselves. And what we do is we take our actual cost, and we show you our actual cost on costplusdrugs.com, and then we mark it up 15%. Then we have a $3 fill fee through our pharmacy partner, TruePill, and then $5 for shipping. And that's with generic drugs. With brand drugs, we're starting to have those negotiations now because the pharmaceutical manufacturers, the people who are creating and selling the drugs, don't like the current system either because it paints them as the bad guys. When in reality, these pharmacy benefit managers are the middlemen that really distort all the pricing with rebates and other things that they do. So we truly can disrupt this. Now, are they going to respond? Are they going to try to match or beat our prices? Of course, but that's not necessarily a bad thing for patients out there either. But we've got so much momentum right now.
I think it sounds like the rest of it's just going to be an advertisement for himself, and that's why they go on these shows, so they can talk their own shit up. And I mean, free advertising for the rich. Give the rich benefits, as I've been complaining about lately. When you're rich, you seem to get more discounts on freaking restaurants and like venues and caterers and shit like that. You always seem to get better rates when you're rich. The fucking mist. All right, yep, everything's still good. Okay, just checking in. It's absolutely insane. But I think I got cut off before I did this the other night. So I had a handful of things through the weekend from protests, and the entire internet for the entire block got shut out, and I didn't get to get to it. So we're gonna do all of the clashes from the weekend. This is Wellington. The occupation 15 days. That's horribly annoying, isn't it? Oh, look at them. They're so stupid. You look like a dick. Mate.
Woman. So you're supporting the Chinese, basically?
Is that it? I love their accents. It's fantastic. Fantastic. What the fuck are they doing?
sign up to suppress the people of New Zealand? Why is there this movement in Christchurch? Why is there this movement in Picton?
I've gone down the other side, mate. Am I scared of modern medicine? None of you. None of you. I don't take medication.
Sergeant?
Same militaristic styles as the U.S., as Australia, as Israel, as France, as England, as all of these people are trained to be not a part of society, but a society downputter, society, I don't know, I'm missing a word, but I think you get the point. They're not meant to be helpful. They're not meant to be integrated at all. So are they yanking this old man out and hog-tying him? What the fuck just happened? That person has gray hair. Again, this is the occupation day 15 in Wellington, New Zealand. Left and right wing news are only talking about Ottawa, but this is happening in Wellington, and this is day 15. This is wild. They seem to be having a hard time moving than me. I don't know how to do a New Zealand accent.
Frontier's 100%.
But yeah, they've been occupied in the capital for 15 days straight over restrictions, mandates, and only 10% of their populace is completely unvaccinated. So wild stuff that they do nowadays. This one is Ukrainians brand Putin as a dickhead protest against Russia aggression. So this is a anti-Russia aggression protest from this weekend. Putin go to hell. Putin go to hell. Putin go to hell. That's fun. Little dick. How come Americans never have something like Little Dick Putin, Little Dick Putin? That's a fantastic. I want 1,000 people saying that. That'd be 400 or 500, but still, come on, that'd be great. Yeah, and that's, I mean, maybe 400 or 500. That's not a very big protest. That was not impressive by any means, but it was pretty funny at least. Their chants. Putin has a little dick. Little Dick Putin or whatever. Yeah, that's fantastic stuff. This one was from, I believe, Saturday as well.
Right now in
Friday.
Oakland, parents and students will use the President's Day holiday to call for new action. They're
Monday.
angry over plans to close nearly a dozen schools.
Today in the Bay's Bob Riddell live for us this morning. And Bob, this protest comes after the district voted against delaying those closures.
Correct. Good morning, Jim, Marcus, and Laura. That protest happening at 2 o'clock this afternoon. It will be outside Parker Elementary in East Oakland, one of the 7 schools that is scheduled to be shut down. You can see that list includes, if you want to take a look at your TV screen, Community Day School, Parker, as I mentioned, Brookfield, Carl B. Monk, also Grass Valley, Korematsu, and Horace Mann. Rise Community is also scheduled to be merged with New Highland Academy, and the 6th through 8th grades are scheduled to be cut from La Escuelita and Hillcrest. Now, Oakland Unified says the closures are necessary to deal with plunging enrollment and a ballooning budget deficit. As you mentioned, on Friday, the school board voted against delaying those school closures. At the end of the school year, Community Day will close and La Escuelita will merge. 5 more schools at the end of the next school year in 2023 will close. The closures ignited a lot of anger in parents and teachers, including 2 teachers who stopped eating in protest. Both said they were ending their hunger strikes on Friday, but teacher Andre Sanchez of Westlake Middle School waited until yesterday to resume his eating, or at least to end his hunger strike. That was after 20 days. On social media, he posted this picture. You can see it right there of himself in a hospital bed with the caption that includes, "Thanks for your love and support. The torch is in your hands. All power to the people."
Jesus, guys. Like, that's kind of the extreme shit we got to go through, and yet still it's just Ottawa, when there's somebody in a hunger strike in Oakland fucking putting themselves in the hospital for just proper funding for school systems to properly teach all children. Just because Oakland is a mostly minority city doesn't mean we miss the fucking funding on it. It's so frustrating. And so that kind of protest is happening right now, but it's not getting national news. It's not getting big news from independent people because there's this Ottawa thing happening. All right, another one. Another commercial, of course, so I had more time to talk. Sorry. Should click on those first, huh?
On to Sudan, where thousands rallied in the capital Khartoum.
Sudan rocked by regular protests. Thousands rally in capital Khartoum
against last year's military coup. And as a United Nations human rights expert arrived in the country, a Sudanese man was shot dead by security forces. Regular protests have rocked the northeast African country since its army chief led a military takeover in October. In a violent crackdown of the protests, at least 81 people have been killed and hundreds wounded. On Sunday, a 51-year-old man was hit with a live bullet to the chest. This brings the death toll in the crackdown on anti-coup protests to 82.
هم اللي بيقتلوا الحاجه، هم اللي بيقتلونا. بعد الان ميتين مننا 81 نفر، هم ميتين منهم كم؟ ما فرضوا المات. فريق سلميه احنا قاعدين فيها حاليا. احنا شغالين في حرب على الاستنزاف. بدينا يوم 25/10 اللي هو يوم الانقلاب. يعتبر الشهر الثالث ولسه مستمرين، والفصل طويل جدا في اننا نستمر تجاه النازل.
Thousands rallied in the capital Khartoum on Sunday. The protesters carried Sudanese flags and posters of others killed during demonstrations in recent months. Security forces used tear gas to try to disperse protesters who were heading towards the presidential palace. Tear gas was also used in nearby Omdurman and North Khartoum.
ونحن الليلة مستمرين في الشارع نطالب بتسليم حكومة مدنية كاملة، وبعد تسليم الحكومة المدنية نحن بنطالب بالقصاص للشهداء، ونحن ما حنتنازل.
Fuck yeah, dude. You absolutely deserve it too. Sudan's been fucking destroyed, murdered, left to dead, and fucked over by the UK, US, and all the Western powers. France, just...
Amid the protests, United Nations human
Israel.
rights expert Adama Dieng is visiting Sudan. UN Special Representative Volker Perthes said on Twitter that he met with rights expert Dieng on his first official visit to Sudan. Dieng is set to meet senior Sudanese government officials, human rights defenders, heads of UN entities and diplomats. Security authorities in the capital have called on protesters to assemble in public squares to avoid more clashes with forces. Sudan has repeatedly denied opening fire on protesters, but Human Rights Watch has quoted witnesses detailing how the security forces have used both live ammunition and fired tear gas canisters directly at crowds. Sudan has been plunged into a turmoil since the October takeover by the military. The coup upended Sudan's transition to democratic rule. The demonstrators are demanding the establishment of a fully civilian government to lead the transition.
Civilian everything, man. Civilian government, civilian policing, civilian decisions of all sorts. We need better representation. System is broken everywhere worldwide. And Sudan is a big one.
See that bright brain full of activity?
All right, let's use this time too. This one is an embarrassing day for Australia as a train strike halts tourists on a day of border reopening. Again, just strike or protest, guys. That's what I want to highlight. I am all about the general strike. I am all about the Poor People's Campaign. Hopefully this June turning into a general strike and us forcing the American government to actually do something for the people. And we need actual drastic change. If it's just one big step at a time, we need a fucking big step. We haven't had one in a very long time.
Idiotic day this was for Australia. What a day to show the world, you know, forget your worries, come here to Australia for a holiday. I mean, seriously? The day opened, sure, you know, with exactly the right message, you know, lots of excitement.
2 years of cancelled holiday plans and time spent separated from loved ones. Today, Australia is reuniting with the world.
Yes, it was just wonderful. Vaccinated tourists could fly in, at least to Eastern Australia, without any quarantine. And at the airport, the first 500 visitors were greeted with flowers and a grinning tourism minister holding a toy koala and Vegemite and Tim Tams.
It's a great day for the 660,000 people that are employed in our tourism industry.
So far, almost so good. That's leaving aside the insane fact, of course, that no one, not even Australians, can fly into Western Australia, even now, for a bit of sightseeing. But it got worse. New South Wales rail, tram and bus union yesterday slapped on work bans on Sydney's trains in a bid for a bigger pay rise, and they picked just this day for the showdown. a day when we had to show the world our best. Because think of the tourism industry.
Are you fucking... Is he seriously... Oh, man. He's actually... he's against the strike, isn't he? Is he against the strike? I feel like this is going, he's against the strike. And I am... This is the last strike clip. This is the other three were protests. This one's a strike. Protest, 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 protest. The other four were protests. This one's a strike. And then we move on. But is he against it? Because I feel like he's going against it, and it's making me a little irked.
Those businesses are desperate to get back to work. We've got just 20% occupancy rates. We're desperate for the business from overseas, and this was their big moment. But no.
That's exactly when you shut shit down. The reason we need to shut shit down in June for a general strike is because the service industry is the #1 industry in the country, and people go on vacation when their kids are out of school. We need to shut shit down and make the rich, the elite that travel all summer, we need to make them hurt. By not having fast food, not by having airplanes, by not having bars and restaurants, by not having big freaking, destinations, tourist spots like Disney and water parks and theme parks. All of that shit shut down because us minimum wage people want some fucking benefits out of all this freaking pandemic. That's what we need to do. Everywhere, every country, not just America, Australia, UK. The UK and Australia, they have some benefits, but they're stripping them away. Every single regime change, they're stripping them away. We're going to call them regime changes from now because that's what they call them. We're going to call them regime changes because that's when they call them when they don't like them. We don't like you, so we're going to call you regime changes.
Sure, the train workers reckoned, hey, our bans are no big cheese. We can still turn up for work and for our pay. But at 2 a.m. this morning, Sydney Trains decided, well, no, the bans meant the network was not safe, and they shut it down.
Yeah.
And that caused transport chaos, including chaos for some of the tourists we actually need.
Kayam.
Okay, first of all, yeah.
7 Mile Beach, and we tried to get there by train, but in the morning they told us they won't drive.
Aww.
Now, the curious thing is, just why the train network was too unsafe and had to be shut down, even the Premier could not explain today.
Safety is paramount. If they can't...
So if I'm getting a train this morning and the train network is working, why would I be unsafe?
What they're saying is that they could not change the timetable in such a way to have it operating in a safe way. That is the advice that we've received from Sydney Trains.
Sorry to hammer this point, but I'm just trying to figure out why. Well, people are there waiting for a train. Why would they say?
He looks so mad. I love it. Oh, I love it when people actually ask the questions. It's fantastic. Do they do this in New Zealand on a regular, or no, Australia? Do they do this in Australia on a regular basis? Because in America we don't, and I'm loving this journalism.
From the discussions I had with the CEO of Sydney Trains this morning, there are a number of technical issues.
And then came the politics, the pre-election politics, everything being so fraught at the moment, which made it even harder to figure exactly who had stuffed up.
If you're trying to get your kids to school this morning, Sydney, or you're hit with a $60 Uber bill just trying to get to work, or you're sitting in gridlock traffic and can't get to that meeting because the unions decided to pull on a strike at 2 a.m. this morning, throwing Sydney-siders into complete chaos. This is what Labor think they can get away with when they think they're going to win an election. Imagine what they'd be like if they actually won it.
Well,
this is the unions.
You're blaming Labor, like goddamn Labor. How dare they they wait till the moment that we most need them to say of course we have to wait to the moment you need us, or else you ignore us. I don't know if this is a ploy in Australia, but to blame Labor for pulling a stunt at the most critical moment, that's the only time you'll listen to us, you elitist.
Playing games with the Labor Party for political purposes at the expense of our people.
The union saying it's not their fault, they never put the train system at risk, but then of course they would say that. Whatever. The result is that on the day that we need to show tourists around the world that they'd get a welcome here, We also showed that they might not actually get a train because it's every man for himself. Dog eat dog in Australia. It's pathetic. It reminded me of how Australia used to be in the 1970s. What an embarrassing day for Australia.
Oliver
That was freaking odd. I don't know. That was odd. Oh, let's not go to that yet. After that oddness, I think I need something a little more painfully and funny. So let's move on to this because this was fantastic, and I haven't got to it. It's been like almost a week. All right, it kept getting pushed to the back, and I have to do it because it was so good. And we need to smile a little bit after that weirdness, right? I have so much actual stuff to get through. We need to smile a little bit. So, all right, redacted tonight. Congress gives $500 million to create an anti-China misinformation campaign, propaganda campaign. Propaganda Panda says America. Propaganda Panda gets paid by America. China too, I'm sure, but we pay a lot of Propaganda Panda.
Welcome to Redacted Tonight. These are dire times, folks. And I think most of you know what the greatest risk is to all of us right now. Sure, some of you are thinking the fact that I can't pay for my insulin this month, but nope, not a big deal. Others of you are thinking the fact that I inhale asbestos all day at my job because it's the only way I can feed my children, who despite my greatest efforts at convincing them otherwise, still seem to think they require food to get by. But nope, that's not it, not significant, not big enough. Think big. Now you got it. China, the great red menace with 1.3 billion people who make most of the products you own, blah, ha, 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 except the sex toys, which were made in Santa Muerte for some reason, blah, ha, 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 ha. Western mainstream media, along with our government, have been doing everything they can to push anti-China propaganda the past several years, despite the fact China is making great technological advancements in many areas and succeeded in ending extreme poverty for 100 million of their citizens. To put that in perspective, that's a third of the U.S. population or a quarter of the number of people Dr. Phil has fucked up. Then there's the fact China hasn't gone to war or bombed anyone in decades and have only one military base outside of China while the U.S. has bombed all of the people recently and have roughly all of the military bases outside the U.S. But Western media can't have China doing positive things, so this week a bill is going through Congress that proposes giving out $500 million for negative news coverage of China. So basically, in place of health care, average Americans will just have to hope to pay for their kidney transplant with a few hastily written articles saying Chinese people undercooked their Mushu pork on purpose. But then that plan will fall through when they realize the entire staff at their local Chinese food restaurant outside Detroit are actually Guatemalan. But yes, $500 million for negative misinformation about China. Has there been a dearth of negative propaganda against China? Last I checked, there's more negative U.S. news about China than there are humpback whales with at least one fidget spinner lodged inside their large intestine. I mean, even before that bill has gone through Congress, we've seen the advent of a whole new genre of journalism called "But at What Cost?" Media outlets say something positive about China and
This is our. I'm sorry we lost a few for some reason because this is my moment of smiles right here. This made me happy this week. I've watched it several times. I wanted to show it on a Stony Progressive late night here. I hope we get a little bit of a Twitch audience joining our YouTube audience because this is right down your guys' alley. And I got some stuff coming up later that might get me kicked off YouTube for the night and have to go only over to Twitch. But this is my favorite moment of the week. I am definitely taking a big, nice hit of this bad boy. And we are going to enjoy this, right?
And then they add, "But at what cost?" These are real headlines. The Telegraph writes, Wuhan 1 year on. the city that appears safe from COVID, but at what cost? BBC says China is getting smarter, but at what cost? Oh, dear God, they're getting smarter. It's going to be a disaster, just like when women learned how to read. Before we could even get a hold on things, they started having opinions. Then they found out their period wasn't the devil punishing them for having opinions. And then, bam, there was an all-female cast of Ocean's 8, and our world has sucked ever since. Let's continue. Serbia has rolled out the red carpet to China. But at what cost? Probably a scuffed up red carpet, which can cost $60 to have dry cleaned. Then there's China invests in Ethiopia, but at what cost? And China's economy looks to be stabilizing, but at what cost? That makes a real headline. And Hollywood has an appetite for China's big bucks, but at what cost? Oh, God, Chinese people might end up enjoying that Emoji Movie, whatever it was called. Or worse yet, Pineapple Express. And then where will we be? Seth Rogen films were supposed to be our little secret. And CNN wrote, the China market is lucrative for the sports business, but at what cost? We can't let Chinese people just enjoy the NBA, cheering while sweaty dudes with pituitary gland tumors put a ball into a basket.
I mean, we knew they liked the NBA when they they spent tons of money on Marbury after he was just burnt out of the NBA. Like, nobody wanted to deal with him anymore. They were like, we will take him, and he went. So we knew they wanted him. It's just
100 times in a row is our thing. If China starts doing it, we will lose our self-identity. Before you know it, an Indian person is sitting next to you at an NFL game, and you know he's not going to do the wave properly. He's going to screw up your whole section. And next thing you know, the Jumbotron is showing you with the words fuckface blinking in neon. I've seen it 1,000 times. Next, there's the slight variance on the but at what cost genre, where they say, but at what cost, without actually saying the words, but at what cost? For example, the Financial Times worries about the vanishing slow trains of China. The time-honored ritual of a long, slow train journey home for Chinese New Year is under threat.
Aww.
The time-honored ritual of taking forever to get somewhere is disappearing. Much like when cars replaced horses here in the U.S., the time-honored tradition of having your legs shat on and flies splattered in your teeth evaporated overnight, causing New York's elites to have to shit on their own legs just to keep up pretenses. Literally, this is an article saying China is so evil, it's putting in high-speed rail. While we here in the U.S. are doing the right and just and romantic thing,
by making you drive across the country with your family because you can't afford the ridiculous flights.
By not putting in any high-speed rail and barely even fixing our current transit system, like the New York City subway that resembles the inside of a dying Decepticon's rusty rectum. We are letting people enjoy the romance of waiting hours for the train, then having to sit in the lap of a man with syphilis of the polio of the rickets for the entire 2-mile ride that takes 75 minutes because 3 people tried to kill themselves by jumping in front of the train, though they didn't realize it was going so slow. All it would do was gently push them out of the way. We can't rob transit riders of that bliss-filled journey. Moving on, here's another one from Bloomberg. China's curing cancer faster and cheaper than anywhere else. But some worry they may be going too fast. China's curing cancer too fast. Think about it. What are people going to do with all those family members that are still alive? Sisters, brothers, mothers, fathers, uncles, aunts, who are undoubtedly annoying people, and now they've survived cancer? No one is prepared for that. Slow down, China. We beg you. Learn from Uncle Sam. Develop a healthcare system that is only available to about half the population, and even for those with insurance, they will still likely spend their entire life savings while fighting cancer, which means they'll be poor afterward, which means they'll likely die much sooner than if they weren't poor. In the U.S. system, not only are we barely making any progress on cancer, despite what Joe Biden has promised, but it came out a few years ago that Wall Street secretly tells their investors to avoid funding cures for diseases. A leaked Goldman Sachs note to top investors said, the potential to deliver one-shot cures is one of the most attractive aspects of gene therapy. However, such treatments offer a very different outlook with regard to recurring revenue versus chronic therapies. It could represent a challenge for genome medicine developers looking for sustained cash flow. Don't invest in cures because they don't come with a sustained cash flow. China is busy curing cancer, while the most we're doing is trying to make cancer like your stepson who lost his job and lives in your laundry room now. Always there, never not annoying. Wish you could just do anything to go back to living your regular life, but nope, this is just how it is now. To sum up, China's curing cancer, but at what cost? Or how about the Council on Foreign Relations saying that China's mixed COVID record offers opportunities for U.S. global health leadership? Mixed record?
What?
The U.S. has watched nearly 1 million of our citizens die from COVID, while China has seen around 5,000. So how, again, are we the beacon of global health leadership? Our health, everything sucks. Half of Americans are now giving birth inside livestock feed bins because they're afraid to go to hospitals where they'll be charged more money than they'll earn in the next 20 years. And that's including their side hustle selling adorable onesies for infants.
Things are looking a little slower. I know that's because that's on TV once in a while. If it's on TV. Or if my equipment's getting too hot. But... oh, bloody hell. I gotta do something about Jen, right? Kind of checking in with Jen started out as kind of I don't know. I thought she was fun. I love Sean Spicer. But she was fun in her own way, so it was entertaining, right? Just happened to be that, like, my second or third time watching her, the first time I like really reacted to her was the first time that anybody asked her about Ukraine at all. And now these last 5-6 weeks, it's just been a spiral, right? So I have to keep watching her, but I haven't had any of those wonderful moments, and I kind of want to just watch what I did back then. But there's a few minutes here, and then this is from yesterday, since I couldn't stream yesterday. This is from yesterday, and let's see if I can get this stream back on good analytics, since it looked like it just went down, although the stream says it's healthy, but I just saw it buffering like crazy. So I hope it's still going well, and let's check out Jen from yesterday, and then the intro today. The intro today had me like cramped gut, like crying. I was so happy. I didn't even make it through the whole thing, honestly, and I probably should. We'll see how far we can get. But we got a few minutes today right here. We'll do the intro a few minutes from yesterday. We'll do the intro today, and then we'll move on. But, yeah.
To clarify something you said earlier about the BBB talks,
Yeah.
You know, to the extent that you're going to tell us about them. You said that, rest assured the president, you said we've been in touch with every member of the Democratic caucus. We've been in touch.
We in the White House.
So that's the Ledge Affairs team mainly? And
What the Ledge Affairs team and senior members of the White House. We're just not going to detail more specifics.
you can't say if the president has been involved personally in any of the conversations with
The president has talked to a range of senators. He always does.
On the Ukraine-Russia stuff, any plans in the works for another?
I've literally heard her say that. I've been watching this, for 5-6 weeks, guys? I've heard her say that at least 20 times. It gets so frustrating. These people ask the same questions. I don't know. I don't do news. I didn't do journalism, and most people that do journalism are taught by the oligarchs, so I don't want to think that journalism is the best, but it just seems like you would know they have choreographed answers, and if you're going to ask something that's going to catch them off guard. If you keep asking them these questions, they're just going to have the knee-jerk answer. Like, ugh.
A conversation between the president and President Zelensky.
He has.
Oh, and as per usual, this is a Fox person, so yay! I love watching the Fox question. You gotta watch the right question, the left, right? They're gonna do the most aggressive questions.
Talked to him a couple of times in the last few weeks, and we've been in regular contact. We also are in very close contact from Jake Sullivan's level and Secretary Blinken's level. So certainly it's possible. We've been in regular touch, but I don't have any call to predict at this point. You just talked to him a couple days ago.
And one other question. Today, obviously, is the start of Black History Month. The president issued a couple tweets about that.
Yeah.
I wonder what the administration, the president's response is to what has been happening in Texas and other states where a number of books have been banned by school districts. These are generally books that have focused on slavery, on Jim Crow, on civil rights, even on the Obamas.
On the Obamas?
On the books that are being banned by these local school boards?
Did you say that?
I have not discussed this with the president, but I can tell you that as an administration, we believe in the freedom of speech and expression, and certainly we have never been advocates of preventing people from understanding and reading history.
To do more to recognize, commemorate Black History Month this month.
Absolutely. Let me see if we can get you some more details. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Jen. A couple of questions for you. Back to the Supreme Court.
Sure.
How will the debate over abortion shape the president's selection process?
The president is going to select an eminently qualified black woman to serve on the court. And he's going to do that through consulting with a range of members of Congress, through outside experts, and obviously.
Nope.
Money that's going to be flowing down to states, and then there's going to be an appointment of
infrastructure. Yeah.
An infrastructure lead. Can you tell me more about who's going to be appointing that person in each state? Because there may be concern over states when you get to like Florida, where you have Governor DeSantis saying that the president is trying to implement wokeification policy and saying that there is no racism within some of the bills that have been in the past. How can there, when you talk about accountability, how is that process going to go, and what information may be accessible to the public as far as reporting?
Well, we have a huge, several hundred-page book that we put out yesterday about how people can apply for.
We got a huge book.
Funding.
She almost said it.
I
She's
just
like, ooh,
outlined for you the money to date that has been allocated, and we have taken steps, and we will continue to make sure that is as transparent as possible. Now, some of these, the funding in this package, as I mentioned, 90% of it will go to local, tribal, and territorial governments. So that really gives the opportunity for a range of leaders to apply for funding, and the book is meant to give them the information and access they need so they don't have to hire lobbyists to do that, so that they can do that on their own. And we're doing that in part to ensure that equity is at the central to how we're implementing this bill.
My final question is, what do you say to many organizations? I've talked to several civil rights organizations on the process of selecting a vice president. They feel like some of the desires of the black community have been put on the back burner. So when it comes to selecting a vice president, why is there no need or no push to speed up the process? The president has said he will.
I mean, you mean a Supreme Court justice?
Supreme Court justice, I'm
Sure.
sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's
Supreme
okay.
Court justice. Why is there no need to speed up that process?
Of selecting a nominee? Well, he's going to name one this month.
Right, name one this month, but there has been a little bit of pushback. Supreme Court justice, I'm
Sure.
sorry. I'm sorry.
No. We need to see that again.
On the process of selecting a vice president, they feel like some of the.
Because that's a Freudian slip. That was perfect. Because, yeah, they're doing the same process where they're just picking somebody that looks good on the books because that's how they filled their cabinet. That's how they filled their whole. That's how they're filling everything they can fill. It's just something that looks good on the books, because we got to look good on the books because we're corporate-owned shills, pieces of garbage, but we have to look good on the books.
Community have been put on the back burner. So when it comes to selecting a vice president, why is there no need or no push to speed up the process? The president has said he will.
I mean, you mean a Supreme Court justice?
Supreme Court justice, I'm
Sure.
sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Oops. Why is there no need to speed up that process?
Of selecting a nominee? Well, he's going to name one this month.
Right, name one this month, but there has been a little bit of pushback as far as comparing the process, the timing to Amy Coney Barrett, as opposed to what the president is going to do during this time. We've heard Chuck Schumer say that. but does the president feel the same way as far as how long or quickly and expeditiously he wants to move this process along?
I just want to make sure I'm answering the right question. So you were saying there's unhappiness in the civil rights community about the pace, or are you talking about the Schumer call for the 38 days?
Well, is the president going to on board with that to push it that fast?
Well, the president takes the decision to select an eminently qualified individual to nominate to the Supreme Court very seriously. He wants that to be a thorough process, and he's still doing that expeditiously by nominating someone this month. And he wants, of course, the Senate to move forward expeditiously, but we're not setting artificial deadlines beyond that.
Oh, I love the way she sidesteps. All right. Today was just, I don't know. It's kind of, oh, no, we gotta start from the start. I can't, for the 5th time watch this. I have to, but I can't watch this for the 5th time. It's gonna drive me nuts. All right. She's so fucking condescending. It's great. All right. That's what I have to say about this. I put the maturity warning on, right? All right. So condescending. It's so great.
Okay. We have a graphic here today because it's been a while since we've had a graphic. So I wanted to deliver on that.
So literally, like, she's like a high school, a middle school, no, grade school. Yep, grade school teacher going, we haven't had graphics in a while. Here's a graphic. Yeah, shit. Oh, it's so funny. These first 5 minutes they're entertaining to me. I apologize if politics, I'm a politics junkie. This is funny to me. And I'm going to toast one more up for these last couple segments here. A little over 2 hours now. So, yeah. A couple more segments and I'm going to call it a night. But let's toast one more up and watch these last few. Because, oh, the way she mocks this is just... Let's, right before we do this, let's do one more, huh? Oh, yeah, there we go. So there's Kiev. Live check-in from EarthCam. 27,000 watching currently. Still just nice little normal-looking city at the moment. People parked on the streets, people driving. There's a lot of traffic at 7:30 their time, but that's, going to work and such traffic. But yeah, just a normal day today. All right, so let's go back to her. Just so remember.
As you all know, we announced our first tranche of sanctions in less than a day after the beginning of the invasion, with allies and partners from the European Union, the United Kingdom, Canada, Japan, and Australia.
After the beginning of the invasion, which they've already started invading, after the beginning of the invasion, we have started these sanctions. That's what she's saying right now. After they just invaded, we are starting these sanctions to combat their invasion. That's how she started her segment today. She started out mocking you with graphics like you're kids and I am the adult here. And now she's just going to throw that in our faces that they attacked, we're sanctioning.
And what we wanted to provide to all of you today is an overview of what we're seeing as an impact on the Russian economy. Obviously, the bite of these sanctions has not taken
all right, this is heavy indica to knock my ass out because this is nuts.
Place yet. So this is largely in anticipation. So let me just go through a couple of these points.
They invaded.
Borrowing costs for the Russian government.
No. They invaded. This is anticipation. This is Maduro Blue Dream Hybrid. Love this ship. They invaded. This is anticipation. This is 47 seconds in. You've just changed everything.
Has spiked to almost 11%, highest since 2015. Foreign investors are fleeing Russia. The ruble is trading at its weakest level since November 2020, one of the weakest currencies in the world. In response to inflation risk, the Russian central bank has hiked rates 8 times in the past year to 9.5%. And Bloomberg reported, just going to cite Bloomberg there, that the
Bloomberg reported, which that just doesn't mean anything at all. To me, that means nothing. Like Bloomberg reporting, it means nothing than less than nothing. I trust the reporting less than I trust the White House. I think that says it. That says enough, right? Yep, that's what I say.
Russia's super rich have tumbled $32 billion this year, with the escalating conflict in Ukraine poised to make that wealth destruction much larger. So as I started off saying, this is before the bite even takes place, and this is just after the beginning. I mean, we've only had obviously a first tranche here, but this is a vicious feedback loop that will get more severe if Putin doesn't escalate. So as he's looking at the impact on his own economy, on his rich and wealthy oligarch friends, and on the people of Russia, these are the facts.
Again, he's looking at his rich oligarch friends who have houses, maids, servants. Just come on, they're not suffering right now from any sanctions that we're doing to them. They're not going to suffer for a long time.
Regardless of what you're hearing from the Kremlin about the impact. Also, just wanted to note, because I know that we put out these sanctions when a lot was happening yesterday, just wanted to give you a little bit more detail of them. Obviously, you hopefully have seen the announcement and the statement from the president about Nord Stream 2. We can come back to that, but that is an additional
Always
step
come back
today.
to that.
And also on banks and the announcement we made yesterday, what we did was we used our most powerful sanctions tool to target 2 major state-owned Russian banks for the first time. That is the significance. These banks can no longer, what it means is they can no longer make any transactions with the United States or Europe, and their assets in the financial system will be frozen. They are the glorified piggy banks, some of the glorified piggy banks for the Kremlin, including one of them, which is a key financial institution where
No, seriously, like the sign language person's mocking her, right? I swear, all the time when I actually take a look at her, she's mocking Jen so hard right now.
support military finances has been held. And this will have a significant impact on Russian leadership in the inner circle because they're state-owned, banks controlled by them. We also were clear yesterday, but again, there was a lot going on, so I just wanted to touch on this lightly, that no financial institution is safe. And the authority that was announced yesterday means that we can expand this to other financial institutions in Russia, and we have every capability and capacity to do that. Second, we made an announcement about sovereign debt. And essentially this means, I know there's been some commentary out there, some from Russia, of course, that they have a rainy day fund. A rainy day fund is limited. A rainy day fund means you can only tap into it until the rainy day fund is done. The ability to purchase sovereign debt.
Seriously, like I swear she talks to people like they're idiots. I love it. It's hilarious. Kind of sending a shit, but it's hilarious, really. But they kind of deserve it a little bit too. They ask the same stupid damn questions every day. They 7 times will ask the same question through a freaking conference. Like, come on, guys. Have I not answered this 7 fucking times to 7 different people, slightly varied? Like, you're gonna catch me off guard by saying it 4 different words?
That means that you can gain access to additional funding. And what we are essentially doing is cutting off their ability to tap into that from the United States and Europe. Finally, on elites, what is significant about this, and somebody asked me this question about what's different. So some of the people who were sanctioned yesterday are repeat people that we have sanctioned in the past. But the additional step we took was that we sanctioned family members, because what we've seen in terms of tactics that they've used in the past is they have moved, they're very sophisticated, some of these oligarchs, no surprise, they've moved money around to children, to family members, so they could still have access to it. And we wanted to reduce the likelihood of that, so that is an additional step we took. So just wanted to cover that. One other note, today also marks 100 days since the president signed the bipartisan infrastructure law. Time flies. It's also day 400 of the administration. In the past 100 days, we've hit the ground running, rolling out nearly $100 billion worth of programs and funding to state and local governments. This funding will help rebuild crumbling roads and bridges.
Slowly go to consultants, slowly go to independent contractors, slowly go to very rich people, while only about 25 to 40% of it go to the actual work that's being done, meaning that we're going to get about 1/3 return on what we're actually spending. Dun-dun-dun! Sorry, that was just my favorite part of this whole thing. And then we'll move on pretty soon.
Replace lead pipes, help provide high-speed internet to every family in America,
1/3.
and produce concrete results that change people's lives for the better.
When we
To
spend
continue
money
this momentum,
this way, we spend 1/3 of it on the actual infrastructure she just said, We spend a third of it on consultants and a third of it on private contractors.
Today, the Department of Transportation announced
waste.
nearly $450 million available to strengthen port infrastructure and supply chain resiliency, and obviously there is more to come. Chris, your first day in the AP seat. Welcome to the front of the room. No pressure.
So a few questions about Ukraine. First, talk about the impact of the economy on Russia. Ukraine is also feeling a lot of economic pain right now. What more is the White House prepared to do to shore up their economy, provide them with financial assistance?
Well, we have provided them an extensive amount of financial assistance, including recently announcing $1 billion in
Yeah. Anyhow, her little spiel was fun. The questions are so repetitive, I can't do it again. But that's 2 days worth of Jen. All right. Now, after all this Ukraine and Russia talk, rejecting NATO expansion, Putin recognizes forgotten Donbas civilians. Here's some actual journalism. When you listen to mainstream media, you're listening to anchors that are reporting talking points given to them from the oligarchs. Aaron Mate is an actual reporter.
Welcome to Pushback. I'm Aaron Mate. Joining me is Richard Sakwa. He is professor of Russian and European politics at the University of Kent. His books include Frontline Ukraine, Crisis in the Borderlands, and his latest, Deception, Russiagate, and the New Cold War. Professor Sakwa, thank you once again for joining me.
My pleasure.
As we were speaking, Vladimir Putin has just announced that he is going to be recognizing these two breakaway republics in the Donbass of Ukraine. Germany has responded that they are pausing the certification of the Nord Stream 2.
This happened like 3 p.m. yesterday, so 11 hours ago.
Gas pipeline between Russia and Germany. Your reaction to these developments?
Well, it's the game changer, even though the game doesn't change. It's a major step. And, depending on how the players are going to take it forwards. In terms of the recognition of these two so-called people's republics, it's prompted in part by Putin's frustration that the various ideas about a European Security Treaty, which he put forwards on the 17th of December, then he got the US and NATO response, and Russia a few days ago responded to them with a tone of disappointment, and that brought matters to a head. But also another factor behind it is the fact that Russia has been sanctioned non-stop since 2015 for its failure to implement the Minsk Accords. And yet almost no pressure was put on Kiev to fulfill its part of trying to solve the Minsk Accords. And the Minsk Agreement people forget, was about how to return these two so-called separatist or breakaway parts to Ukrainian sovereignty. That was the point. So Russia was actually trying to push these people back into Ukraine, but they refused to, fulfill their bit. The Normandy format was one way to achieve it, and that wasn't being fulfilled. So that's in the media. And a third and final, there's plenty more, but one big issue is that we tend to forget that the nearly 4 million people living in the Donbass have been suffering, shelling and sniper fire and, deprivations of one for another for, nearly 7 years now. And this really has been quite important if you recall that terrible time when Sarajevo was under siege from 1992 to 1995 by the Serbs. And quite rightly so, there was an international reaction. But it almost seems as if these 4 million people just don't matter, that they're Sovoks or Vatniki, these unpleasant derogatory terms, or what Hillary Clinton would call a basket of deplorables.
Jesus.
So, and they're not. 700,000 of them now have Russian passports. These are men, women, and children trying to live a normal life, and it just wasn't possible. So this is an attempt to break the logjam. Whether it's the right move or not is debatable, but that's what the aim is.
On this point, the Russian ambassador to the UN, Vasily Nebenzia, said at a late night meeting of the UN Security Council, he said this: the main task of our decision in terms of recognizing the independence of these republics in the Donbass was to preserve and protect these lives of the civilians there. This is more important than all of your threats. Do you think that's true, that this was the main motivator here for Russia, to protect people in the Donbass who have been on the receiving end of Ukrainian military shelling? And maybe you could put some numbers to this. Are there any verifiable numbers that show, just who's been bearing the brunt of this war in the Donbass between rebels and the Ukrainian military?
To start on that second point, according to UN data, 80% of the military actions. I mean, it's difficult. Sometimes it's very questionable, the OSCE mission, where an actual shell has emerged from. But basically, 80% of the incidents originated from Ukraine's side into the Donbass, and 80% of the casualties have been on the Donbass side, which is quite frightening and awful. And as for, to say, the main motivation, maybe it wasn't the main, but certainly it was important. And, it's been a matter of increasing concern. I mean, I've been in meetings, in Moscow with high officials where we've had people from the Donbass who, saying, look, come on, help us, do something to stop this endless shelling. And it's really quite disgraceful for the European Union. I mean, I don't know about the United States, but certainly the EU, which claims to uphold norms and human rights. And it seems to have ignored entirely the lives and the conditions of nearly 4 million people. It's yet another, abnegation of responsible, or what some people would call double standards.
On the point about double standards, you mentioned the Ukrainian government's hesitancy to implement the Minsk II Accords, which could resolve the conflict. The Washington Post recently reported on the most recent round of talks that were held to revive the Minsk Accords, brokered by France and Germany, I believe. And this is what the Washington Post reported. A key obstacle, according to diplomats familiar with the discussion, was Kiev's opposition to negotiating with the pro-Russian separatists with whom they've been in a deadly but low-intensity conflict for the past 8 years. This was just reported last week. So you have the Kiev government apparently here saying that they will not negotiate with the people that they're fighting in the Donbass, which essentially makes negotiations impossible. Do you think that this was then a deliberate strategy on their part to ensure that Minsk would fail? And do you think that the U.S. had a role in encouraging them toward that position?
Well, Kiev has been adopting this position for 7 years, effectively. It has refused to talk to the people, its own people, by the way, on the other side. They would argue that they were simply Moscow stooges and so on. Clearly, they were influenced by Moscow, and some of the leadership was changed. But nevertheless, when we have an insurgent...
Leadership is always influenced by the powerful governments, but doesn't mean anything to the day-to-day people. Day-to-day life isn't that much different state to state. It's not that much different in the Western culture. It's the rich and powerful and the leaders above you doesn't change the life of those that are important right now. It's the civilians of the area.
And we know this going back to any counterinsurgency operation. In the end, you have to talk to the people not like them, but all the way Nelson Mandela, for example. All the way back, not suggesting any comparable terms. So you have to talk, but Minsk has refused to talk to their own people. In fact, they launched their attack in April 2014, when there had been a Geneva agreement on the 17th of April that year. And it was Kiev which refused and started the shelling, an so-called ATOR, anti-terrorist operation, against its own people. And this has been the astonishing thing for so long, a people which they want to return to Ukrainian sovereignty. So a paradox here. And it was a nonsense, ultimately, a very cruel one. And so, as you say, there wasn't a feeling a couple of weeks ago that the Normandy format, that's France, Germany, Russia and Ukraine, would start and get the thing moving. But the feeling at that moment was that we probably needed the United States on board to push Kiev towards an agreement. I can understand Kiev's reservations because clearly some sort of autonomy for the Donbass would have jeopardized its joining NATO. But then, even then, joining NATO, why? It wasn't likely to be in the near future anyway, so it was clearly an untenable position. It's a Gordian knot, which this act last night of recognition of their independence is an attempt to cut. But as we know with Gordian knots, when you cut one knot, you create another one.
How influential is the far right in Ukraine in blocking implementation of accords like Minsk and any other kind of resolution that could end the fighting?
Well, it's basically they hold veto power, and we saw this in December 2019.
What? That's wild. What? Seriously? I
Remember that Volodymyr Zelensky was elected president of Ukraine in April 2019 with over 70% of the population. The vote, including, I mean, he's a Russian speaker from the southeast, were in favor as the peace candidate. Just like, by the way, Poroshenko was elected president in May 2014 as the peace candidate. But in both cases, they were held hostage by the militant nationalists and radicals, call them what you like. And at the meeting in Paris, December 2019, of the Normandy format, which we really thought, and Putin went out of his way to try to achieve a result, and so did Merkel and the French President Macron, by the way. But even as they were meeting in that Normandy format, the militants were occupying the Maidan and saying, we won't allow any agreement. Zelensky tried afterwards to keep pushing it forwards with his chief of staff. But basically, they hold the Ukrainian state hostage, which is a catastrophic position. And that's why Putin felt he had to go over their heads to try to achieve an agreement, which ultimately has to be with the United States.
What did you make of Putin's speech? He gave a very long address in announcing the recognition of these two republics. He listed a series of historical grievances. The way it's being interpreted in the US is that this was Putin announcing that essentially the era of peace or cooperation or negotiations with the West is over, and that Putin is now trying to basically reconstitute the Soviet Empire, with these two breakaway republics inside Ukraine being just the first stop.
This version, which is put forward by Kiev and its vast army of lobbyists in Washington, is completely false. Putin never has any intention of re-establishing a Russian empire, an old Soviet or Russian imperial framework. What he wants, indeed, that's why he supported, against huge opposition, by the way, internally, the Minsk Accords for so long, was because he felt there could be a way forwards. But yes, the speech last night was a deeply emotional one. I've actually never quite seen him like that. I've watched Putin dozens and dozens of times, close up, far away, on screens and so on. But it was almost like a sort of a suppressed anger, and he was almost on the edge of losing control. People tell me that the last time he was quite like this was after what Moscow calls the coup, when Yanukovych was overthrown on the 21st of February 2014, that he really did lose control, and then they moved towards Crimea. And so last night, it was a long speech. It was, this was an appeal to the people, but it went on for nearly an hour. And it was, an attempt to give the historical framework. And it referred back to his famous, or some people would say infamous, article in the summer about Ukraine and Russia being one people. And that argument, which he's making, is a fair one. They're probably just like Welsh people and English are one British people in that view, but he's never said they should be one state. He's never said that. So the speech was, again, basically, it's now an open declaration that we can no longer talk with you. The West, of course, has been piling on sanctions for year after year. So they're saying, and he actually said it in his speech yesterday, that, okay, you're going to throw more sanctions at us. But, we're used to it. Russia's been under sanctions since the Jackson-Van Eyck Amendment of 1974. So, and then when that was lifted, they set a new lot, the Magnitsky Act. So, it's not going to end. The United States has been opposed to Nord Stream 2 right from the beginning, and any gas pipelines or any pipelines from Russia since way back in the 1970s. So it's as if the Cold War never ended.
Right. And on that point, Germany just announced that they are shutting down certification of the Nord Stream 2, at least for now, although it's not a permanent decision. So I think they've left some room open for that to be possibly reversed. What do you make of that decision?
Yeah. It's, effectively certification was postponed anyway. So even before Russian actions, because they suddenly decided a couple of months back that they had to have a registered office in Germany, as if they didn't know that over the 10 years, rather than the holding company registered in Switzerland. So they wanted to put it in Germany. That was going to take 6 months to set up. So the earliest we could have got gas flowing, even though it's physically finished, was middle of maybe later, well into 2022. So the halting of the certification, Russia has factored that in. But, a key point here is to say that it's the Nord Stream 2 is 2,000 kilometers shorter than the Ukrainian route. It's also far more green, if you like, energy efficient, because the Ukrainian pipeline system, because the main Russian gas production now is in the Yamal Peninsula. The old West Siberian fields are largely getting exhausted. So there's a lot of factors there. And don't forget, we in Western Europe are suffering an energy shortage. Our gas bills going up, gas price has gone up nearly tenfold. So, we've already, before anything has happened, we're suffering the effects of sanctions.
Well, and you raised an important point. There still is a Russian pipeline running through Ukraine. The point of Nord Stream 2 is that it just made that route quicker. But is that pipeline going from Russia into Europe via Ukraine? Is that going to still keep flowing?
Well, yes, because European gas demand is rising as part of the green shift, if you like. So in the immediate future, it will decline later, but the North Sea gas fields are largely depleted.
If you like.
Production is falling sharply. The Groningen gas...
We're using gas which burns and, creates problems all over the place. But we're using that because of green energy, for the short term. Burning things that kill the planet on the short term to help the green initiative it's like digging massive graves of freaking in the planet to dig out tiny little minerals to help with freaking Elon Musk's freaking car energy batteries. There's better ways to do it. There's better ways to recycle and to do those vehicles and not have to kill the planet. There's better ways.
Now being closed. So Russian gas is required. So this was going to be, 55 billion cubic meters. And so Ukrainian pipeline, maybe volumes would fall, but nevertheless, no one has been talking about it being closed down, even though it's hugely inefficient and hugely polluting, by the way.
And also, it seems contradictory. You're punishing the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline ostensibly for Russia's actions in Ukraine, but yet everyone is still allowing this Russian gas pipeline to go through Ukraine.
A new one. It's insane. We're not going to watch the whole thing, guys. That's a great interview. Always check out Aaron Mate. Please check out Aaron Mate. Gray Zone, he's been doing Useful Idiots in the morning. He's been doing a lot of stuff, but if he's on Jimmy, if he's doing his own stuff as pushback on the Gray Zone, if he's doing Useful Idiots, he's always worth checking out. And I think we're going to end the night, and we'll see if they allow it, but it was a request from a subscriber on Twitch, and I have not done it yet. I've been blocked and knocked out the last few nights I've streamed. This is the first time I've streamed where I haven't been knocked out so we are going to react to this. React to a reaction. The September 11th attacks and Hassan Piker's reactions, I guess. I don't know, one of my subscribers told me I had to check this out. I was saying that I didn't really care for his opinions, and I don't know if I'm going to care for his opinions on this subject or this day, or he wasn't doing so this must be from what, like a couple years ago or something? I don't know. September. Oh, okay, so wait. This is September 13th, 2021. This is only like a couple months ago. Is this the right one? I don't know. I don't think my subscriber is on there today on Twitch, so I'm going to watch this for a little bit, and we'll see what happens. I don't know. Anyhow, they told me this was the video to watch. The video that I picked for Hassan was the wrong one, and I can be happy or annoyed or hate this person forever based on this video, I guess.
We crashed. The other trade center's down. It's down. It's down.
Well, let's
get started.
And personally, to me, the whole stream, if it's that fast, is kind of distracting. Like, I don't mind it when there's only a couple hundred people on and people have them going, but when it's that fast, it's like it's a bit much. It distracts from the actual what's happening. I'm trying to read people's things. I'm trying to see what he's doing. It kind of gives it a little bit of anxiety, like a lot of anxiety actually.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about. The first hate crime casualty after 9/11 was a Sikh man named Balbir Singh Sodhi, murdered by a man who thought Balbir was Muslim. On The Daily Show, Hassan Minhaj asked, why don't you just go, hey, I'm not Muslim? This was my response. I hope you'll join us.
Why don't you just go, hey, I'm not Muslim?
It's just not an option for us to throw another community under the bus, even if it means things are harder for us. We believe it's the right thing to do.
Like, we need to be better than that as Americans. And that's what our Sikh values.
Why don't you just...
I love that there's still white people telling me it's actually Sikh when there's literally a Sikh dude in the chair that calls himself Sikh. Okay? But white people in the chat are like, no, they're Sikh, bro. Like, you're saying it wrong. Yeah, tell that guy he's saying it wrong, dude. Come on, white people. Tell the Sikh man that he's saying he's saying it wrong. Go ahead. Again, it was a horrible tragedy. Like, I don't think anyone is like disagreeing with that.
The religion has like 15 million people worldwide. And I believe in India they say Sikh, where there's like 1/3 of them, but a lot of the rest of the world doesn't say that way. So I think that's the problem. Again, I'm sorry. I'm reacting to a reaction video. This is a little ridiculous, but I had watched one and I'm supposed to give him a second try.
I mean, there might be some people, because like obviously innocent civilians do not deserve to die. But it was a totally preventable thing that the American government absolutely did nothing to prevent, and as a matter of fact turned the other cheek on, and then reacted in the perhaps worst possible way that you could. And to put things into context, like now all of these liberals try to say like, January 6th is like 9/11 but so much worse. Like, you know, it's not. 9/11 was obviously significantly worse than January 6th. Shut the fuck up. Like 3,000 Americans literally fucking reduced to rubble and ash in a fucking pancaking building. Like, are you insane? It's like not even comprehensible to make that comparison. But you know what's fucking worse, dude? COVID. Okay? Like, pound for pound, there's fucking people just literally dying as they're gasping for the last breaths alone in ICUs. There was a point at the fucking peak of COVID where we literally had a 9/11 a day. And the hogs were clapping for it. So I don't know what the fuck these people are talking about. Like, you don't care. You literally just don't care. You just don't care. So shut the fuck up. You just don't care. I'm sorry.
Oh, this was an accident.
Like, yeah. Almost 3,000 Americans died in the last 2 days, dude, to COVID.
We're back at 8:30 on this Tuesday morning. It's the 11th day of September, the year 2001. Al, it is such a pretty morning, isn't it?
Perfect fall morning, although it's not fall yet. So.
God damn, look at... That wasn't Al Roker, was it?
Yes, it was. Moron.
Was that Al Roker?
Yes, of course it was.
God damn, he was chunky. Holy shit.
You didn't know that?
Some very sketchy details reaching us here at Sky Centre. Important enough to bring to you, though, at this early stage. We believe that a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center in New York.
It was a perfect fall morning. Yes. Clear skies. And then 9/11. Boom.
Yep.
York. Right now we're getting information, Al, that it was a small commuter plane, and of course we'll let people know as soon as we have more information as to what actually caused this, and of course on everybody's mind who might have been hurt.
60 on page 1. Thanks for all the good streams and for further radicalizing.
Look at his
the
face,
asshole.
dude. But please, just what? So many iconic moments from this that people have probably seen a million times over. But this is when I forget his name, but the dude, this guy, he's in the fucking Netflix documentary too. He walks over to George W. Bush, who is talking about the No Child Left Behind policy at a Florida school. Okay, they're pulling their books out. They're literally pulling their books out right now. And he goes, "Hey, man." Originally, they tell him, "We believe while he's walking in, they say, "We believe a Cessna or a prop plane hit the World Trade Center." So now, at this point, they're thinking, "Oh, you know, someone must have been someone must have had a heart attack or something, and then they accidentally fucking hit the plane. They took a fucking small prop plane and they hit the tower. Oh my God, how devastating of a tragedy."
11 months.
Then they're informed
Much love,
that, oh no, it's not actually a fucking Cessna or a prop plane. It's a straight up fucking commercial airliner. Can you talk about where you were on that? I was in Turkey, dude. I don't fucking remember. I was 10 years old.
What we've just seen is about the most shocking videotape I've ever seen.
It is completely impossible to understand why this is happening and to figure out what in the world is going on.
We heard a big bang, and then we saw smoke.
Flossing on the other building's roof, I saw you. Yeah, I was in New Jersey dancing with the rest of the Muslims, right? That's what all the Muslims were doing, right? In New Jersey, dancing in rooftops. Fucking
That's
idiot.
ridiculous, yeah.
No, I was in Turkey. I was 10 years old, bro.
Coming out, and everybody started running out, and we saw the plane on the other side of the building, and there was smoke everywhere, and people are jumping out the windows. Over there, they're jumping out the windows, I guess because they're trying to save themselves. I don't know.
Blew up, a big explosion, people started running, it was just chaos everywhere. People jumping out, people just kept jumping and jumping and jumping.
My DoorDash driver just dropped my food off, blasting your stream. Damn, dude. Motherfuckers out here learning about 9/11 while doing food deliveries. Shouts out to the DoorDash driver.
Unrelated. Rain daily for more 90 days.
And then boom, when the second plane, when the second plane crashes, is being told to him, he's like, "All right, it's time to get up."
And now you have to move from talk about a possible.
So they fucking, put his ass in Air Force One. Apparently, the Air Force One protocols are violated. It's literally ready to go before the president even sits down. You know what I mean? They just fucking shove him into the Air Force One and they fucking take off. Doors are literally, it's taken off before the doors close. Like, that's how fucking quick they're like out and about and in the sky. Now, part of the reason for that is because that's usually what they're supposed to do. Air Force One is supposedly protected.
9/11 happened. Thank you for teaching us.
And Dick Cheney is giving the command to the Air Force to shoot down any planes that are not, any civilian planes that are not responding, that are not complying with orders to land immediately.
Accident to talk about something deliberate.
Let's go to President Bush right now.
2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center.
George W. Bush lands in one of the military bases, I believe in Arizona, and delivers a statement. I think it was in Arizona.
Terrorist attack on our country.
Or was it Omaha?
I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor.
He goes to Off-Put AFB in Omaha, Nebraska, where Stratcom is.
All my trans cuties in
Okay, I was wrong. He goes to Omaha.
Of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government
for politics stayed for
go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act. Terrorism against our nation will not stand. And now, if you join me in a moment of silence.
Then you have the American Airlines Flight 77, which fucking crashes into the Pentagon. Okay. At that point, the Federal Aviation Authority grounds all the flights across the U.S. and the South Tower at 9:58 a.m. in Manhattan collapses. Okay? Now, this is the part of the events that unfolded that is the reason why a lot of conspiracies started. Obviously, whenever there's like a massive world-changing cataclysmic event like this, there's slated to be a lot of conspiracy theorists. But when the South Tower collapsed, it was surprising. I mean, the fucking tower was like literally rattling, obviously. But the speculation at the time was that, and this is the famous coined term from the Loose Change documentary, jet fuel cannot melt steel beams. Wait, a third plane got crashed in the Pentagon as well? Back it up. And a fourth plane was also redirected by the brave fucking passengers on the flight. And that one crashed in Pennsylvania. They forced that plane to crash in Pennsylvania. So, yes, for those of you who don't know, it's not just fucking 2 planes that hit the towers. There's 4 planes total. 2 planes successfully crash into, the North and South Tower of the World Trade Center. 1 plane successfully crashes into the Pentagon. And then the 4th plane is overtaken by the passengers.
I guess the person that wanted me to watch this was trying to help me inform me or whatever. I'm a big believer. The Zeitgeist movie, the original movie, goes over like 45 minutes of the whole sequence of the towers and everything, and I already have my beliefs. And yeah, I mean, he's right. There's actually supposedly 5 or 6. There was 1 or 2 that actually did not get hijacked as well. 1 or 2 failed attempts of hijackings as well that never even got hijacked.
Anyway, let's keep going.
It's been 9 months. Where's our child?
People were burning alive in those fucking towers. They were jumping out of the towers themselves. They were jumping out of the towers to save their lives. Obviously, like, because they have nothing. They just didn't want to. At that point, it's like you're either going to die after a big leap or you're going to fucking die when you're suffocating as your lungs are on fire, right? And the jet fuel does actually play a significant role here. The jet fuel was, from what I understand, the jet fuel was like leaking through the elevator shaft. There were people inside of the elevator at the time that just fucking melted. Target of the plane 4 is suspected to be the White House.
11th of September.
For those of you who don't know.
We've forgotten somewhat to remind people that there was the crash of...
And at 10 a.m. in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where George W. Bush was this morning to commemorate and honor, 9/11 victims 20 years after the fact, United Airlines Flight 93 crashed. It crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania on its way over to what they suspect was the White House or the Capitol building. It crashed because the passengers overtook the cockpit. They broke through the door, and they actually were able to successfully take over and overpower the people that had already taken the plane with box cutters. Okay.
Another plane, a 4th plane outside Pittsburgh, about 80 miles from Pittsburgh, and we don't have video of that story at the moment. That's the 4th prong in this terrorist attack on U.S. soil.
We want to just repeat.
Is that a theory? No, motherfucker. What do you mean, is that a theory? No, that is known, dude. Like, no, it was not shot down. People think it was shot down. At the time, they were literally contemplating shooting it down. Some people say that Dick Cheney actually gave the order to shoot down. Like, no, they literally fucking, they ran it into the ground, bro. What the fuck? Like, there's cell phone recordings of the people contemplating overtaking the cockpit. There are people calling in to their loved ones. leading up to that event. Like, there's so much evidence. It's almost all of it is recorded. Now, of course, this is another, and then there's the black box too. But this is another one of those conspiracies, like Loose Change, and in the final iteration of Loose Change, which is like incredibly successful as far as like how conspiracy theories pop the fuck off, literally at a time before the internet, basically, where people were personally, copying DVDs on the internet and handing it off to people. Okay, and then also really popping off on the internet too. But Loose Change, and one of the more prominent conspiracy theories is that this flight actually never fucking existed, or rather, it never fell, and it just landed in Cleveland, which is so psychotic. I mean,
people have ever heard about two fighter pilots who took off on 9/11 to protect the nation's capital, knowing it might be their last mission.
It was a normal Tuesday morning.
Lieutenant General Mark Sassville and Heather Penny flew F-16s for the Air National Guard. On September 11th, 2001, they watched two planes hit the World Trade Center.
We knew immediately, as soon as we saw the images, that we needed to protect and defend.
Protect and defend the nation's capital, as commercial airliners had become weapons of war. What did you understand about the rules of engagement, Heather?
We understood what the threat was. We were looking for a rogue airliner flying low that was not communicating with air traffic control.
The pilots had no time to spare. The country was under attack. They knew of at least one plane still in the sky, flying low. It was United Flight 93.
You got United 93?
They didn't even have time to load missiles. So you two were flying F-16s that weren't armed with missiles. So how were you going to take down Flight 93?
I mean, conspiracy theorists will say, like, oh, convenient that they didn't have missiles on it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I have to hit the airplane and disable it somehow.
A kamikaze mission.
Our only choice was going to be to ram the airliner.
Sag.
Sir, I remember you would take the cockpit to aim at the terrorists. And I would take the tail.
It's not something you survive.
No. As the military, we don't send our service members on suicide missions. But it was clear what needed to be done that morning.
It was not an order through the chain of command. It was.
I load. That's my job. It takes at least an hour to load a F-16. I know. I mean, I understand that it takes a while to fucking put up weapons in the F-16 and load it up before you, fly it out. But it doesn't matter. Motherfuckers are still not going to believe it because they're going to say, like, oh, there wasn't a loaded F-16. Fuck off. Like, the point is, conspiracy theorists are not going to believe you, even if you show them the evidence. They're going to say this is a propaganda interview.
It was your call to ram the plane.
We're gonna look at this thread. It's a great thread, dude. I'm very excited to show you this thread. Don't worry. I've been gearing up. There's so much shit I want to show you
We
today.
didn't have any other choice.
But we're not even done. We're not even done with the day of 9/11 yet because there's so many conspiracies associated with it that, like, I want to go through some of them before we get to the fucking psychotic response.
Weren't going to be caught on the ground watching America get hit again.
What they didn't know was that the passengers and crew of Flight 93 fought back and drove the plane into a field in Shanksville. 20 years later, how often do you think about that day, 9/11?
I think about it every day. Those on Flight 93 that...
All right. Yeah, so I don't want my stream to get taken down, and it keeps telling me I'm having errors, which, since I've been playing this, that makes sense, because I'm on YouTube and Twitch, and I'm sure this is just getting throttled at the moment. But, I have shown the movie before on my streams, and I will say that I kind of stick with, I don't give a shit. Conspiracy theorists, when I hear that phrase, I get mad. That's a CIA term. It's a CIA term to debunk people and to push people to the fringes that are against their narrative. A conspiracy theorist is a bullshit term. I hate that term. As far as 9/11 goes, I kind of stick with the Zeitgeist movie. Their whole narrative, pretty much. When I was watching it live, when I was watching documentaries afterwards, that's kind of how I'd wrap it up. So I will stick with them, and I am getting just absolutely warnings from my streaming service. So I think 3 hours in, I am gonna have to call this, guys. All right, yeah, this I keep getting warnings from them, so yeah, I gotta shut this down. Thanks for joining me tonight. Stony Progressive. Most nights, I bartend, I get out, I come out and stream. Midnight Eastern usually when I do this. And yeah, I'll be doing some more clips, more bits, and more highlights every day I can. And yeah, I'm just getting throttled for this 9/11 shit. So I gotta go, guys.